Hey, everybody. I'm Jesse.
I'm Nate.
I'm Roman.
And I'm Kylie.
And this is Boring Conversation.
Welcome to Boring Conversation, a Malifaux podcast.
And welcome back to Boring Conversation, everybody. It has been a hot minute. I recorded an episode shortly before the Danger Planet GT and fully expected to do a post GT episode that I didn't record. And then I also forgot to record anything in August. So here we are in September. We're finally recording, and thankfully we have a topic that has sprung to mind, which is the summer 2024 Errata. So here with me today, I have Nate and Roman from the Steam-Powered Scoundrels, and Kylie, the person who I just bother with errata thoughts and things like that on the interwebs. And before you
I
know
am
it,
the sound chamber that walks like a person.
yes. And then before you know it, they'll be irregular because that's how
Then
things
Roman
go in
and I are
podcast land.
here for some reason.
Yes, yes.
We wandered in really.
There were like two Bayou models in the
Yeah.
errata, and I figured that there would probably be about 45 minutes worth of content between the two of you on those two erratas. So
You're not wrong.
Yeah. I'm expecting a lot from y'all.
There's even a Bayou adjacent FAQ that I'm excited about because it amuses me.
Oh.
Yes.
And
yes,
and a
indeed.
performer minion. There's another 30 minutes just there from me.
I
know.
No one here is interested in talking about Arcanist or Bayou, clearly. We're all Guild aficionados.
Yes. So, yeah, we're going to talk about the 2024 errata. We're going to be going through most of the errata models. We're going to be kind of breezing over the elite and mimic stuff because, quite frankly, there are people that are more qualified than me, and I can't speak to the other folks on the call right now. But as of date of recording, I've already heard like two pretty thorough deep dives on them, and yeah, we'll probably just offer some commentary, some flavor text, as it were. But we'll let the more experienced players take care of that one in depth.
There's way too much. There's way too much legal fine print with them, so we gotta.
Yeah, there's a lot of legalese in there. But yeah, there's plenty of content with just the other stuff, and I get the feeling that, I feel like what happens is anytime there's one of these pretty sweeping erratas, because this one's pretty significant. You get a couple of people that'll chime in, content creators or folks on the forums or here, there, and everywhere. And I feel like a lot of times the erratas and the changes to the models, be it buffs or nerfs or side grades or what have you, are really tough to kind of put in perspective unless you kind of know how they fit into the keywords and the factions that they go into. So, like, I've heard some people kind of poo-pooing the Bayou changes with McTavish and Uncle Bog, and I'm like super pumped to play both of them.
Yeah, strong disagree, at least on one of those.
Strong disagree on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So we're here to tell everybody else on the internet why they're wrong about Uncle Bog and how he's even better than he used to be.
You're gonna have to convince me.
In the cruise you want to take him in.
You're gonna have to convince me, but I'm willing to hear it. I'm getting warmer on it.
Okay.
I'm
I
in
had
the
a pretty
McTavish.
negative first reaction.
I'm on the McTavish boat personally, but we'll get to both of them.
I'm very into the new McTavish.
I mean,
I'm right there with you.
All he needs is Uglowy, and then he'll be my boy once again.
Oh, my second edition heart.
Same.
Oh.
Not extra sparkly though. That one sucked. Anyway, so first and foremost, what are you all drinking tonight?
Well, I was hydrating, but I have just recently cracked open a Sam Adams Boston Lager.
Wahoo. That's good beer. I haven't had one of those in a long time. They're really good.
Yeah, it's right on the intersection of decent beer and decent cost.
Hey.
And that's what I like.
Those Hallertau Middle Fruit hops. It's like one of the beers that I think they stand out in better than just about any other beer on the market. It's good stuff. I like it. I myself am trying a brand new beer from Zero Gravity Brewing in Burlington, Vermont. Conehead Haze Hazy IPA. I have no idea what's in it because they weren't kind enough to put any details whatsoever on the can, and I can't be bothered to actually look it up on the internet before I talk about it. I'm kind of surprised I grabbed this because I'm not really in like a hazy IPA mood these days, but first blush, it's pretty good. It's just had my first sip. I like it. So
Nice.
good job, Zero Gravity.
Nice.
What about you, Roman? What you got?
Well, I used my last Guinness in the house in a wonderful lamb stew tonight. Technically, Megan did. So I decided to go with a White Russian because the dude abides.
The dude abides.
The dude abides.
How about you, Kyle? You got anything?
Just doing some reposado tequila, and just kind of as my side, like actually wash down my throat while I'm talking in a podcast. I have a lime watermelon aha, those like no sugar like things. I have tried every other type of like sugar-free soda water flavor, and I swear these aha things, like I'll actually go halfway across the city to grab them if I see them on sale. I don't know why they taste less fake than the other ones, but. And I'm not even getting paid to say this. I am in no way sponsored. There's no sponsorship in this podcast. I like it. And
well, you might have made a sale. I might have to try that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the flavors are like, like peach honey or like lime watermelon. Like somehow they pick the right things. Like I don't like berry or anything. Like they have an orange grapefruit, but because the grapefruit balances it out, like I don't know. And especially with things like I drink a lot of tequila, and sometimes you just want something like crisp and clean, like to just kind of like palate cleanse. And I like these things. They're pretty good.
Well, it sounds like they probably actually have flavors in them more than for like a lot of the bubble waters. It's like this has the idea of that flavor in the room next to it where this was made.
I don't know. The bubbly ones taste like you rinsed out a perfume bottle, and then you're just like, it's like essence of cucumber, and you're like, no, it isn't.
That is exactly right. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's better than half of the spiked seltzers out there that just taste vaguely like orange flavored TV static. It's not great.
And I'm glad for all the listeners to know that we have such strong opinions on flavored water. Just wait till we get to Malifaux.
It's true.
Tell you what, I will crack down a case of Mountain Dew seltzers though.
Nice.
Yeah,
those things are good.
I just actually, before we move on from this, because I was very impressed with these things. I was at the corner store yesterday, and they had this stuff that I'd never seen before. Corona Sunbrew Citrus Cerveza. My wife likes Corona. I like Corona too. It's pretty good beer, by and large. Not fantastic. But this one caught my eye, and it's basically Corona, but they brew it with sweet orange and then orange peel and lime peel. So I'm like, oh, it's like halfway to being done already. That doesn't sound so bad. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. Oh my God. It's like
very nice.
A little sweet, and it's got like just the right amount of lime in it. And if you throw a shot of tequila in there, oh man, it is so good. It is so good.
Random Canada trivia, because you mentioned Mountain Dew. Do you guys know that Mountain Dew is not caffeinated in Canada?
Really?
The Mountain Dew we have has no caffeine in it. The recipe that you guys use in the States to, I assume everybody's actually based in the States, but the recipes used in the States, when they resold that in Canada, they had to sell it legally as an energy drink with a black label and called it fuel. So, yeah.
Yes!
So as far as polite and timid Canadians were considered, there's just too much dew in your Mountain Dew, I guess.
USA.
And presumably you have actual sugar in it and not, ground up corn.
Yeah, I think the sugar is the difference. But if you need a pick-me-up, you're just getting a different kind of sugar up here. There's no caffeine in normal Mountain Dew up here.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
The USA doing it in the way that only the USA can. Oh, yeah.
Caffeinated.
And with probably more sugar. Because, Anyway. So, Errata.
Yeah.
Basically, we're just gonna kind of take a look from the start of the Errata changelog. We'll go through in alphabetical order. So, Roman, looks like Arcanists get to go first. Lucky you.
Yeah.
We'll see if we have time for the rest of the podcast after this. But yeah. So let's just dive right in. We have Damien Ravencroft Aspirant, the errata that I think everybody knew was coming after they tweaked Damien Unbound, otherwise aka Damien 2. It quickly became apparent that actually he was not the only thing that was broken about the keyword, and that the first version was also equally broken. So they've done some stuff to tone him down a little bit. He got an extra health, which is great. I don't know why we keep getting masters with like 11 health. Can we just settle on 12? And for God's sakes, please don't give us any more 10 wound masters like poor Yoko 1. It hurts my heart when I see that. But yeah, he got an extra wound. He went from 11 to 12. Most importantly, he lost the Memories of the Yellow Crypt ability. And just in case your app is updated by the time you get to this particular one, the way that worked was, of course, I was looking at Dabblers for reasons. There we go. So Memories of the Yellow Crypt is after a card of value 9 or greater is added to your configuration, a friendly witness model in line of sight gains shielded +1 or may move 2 inches. On its face, that doesn't sound too bonkers, but in practice, it happened a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah. So in practice, that was Damien and Lohith are at the center line before they activate, often with like shielded 2 each.
Oh yeah, it's great.
Oh no.
They made a variety of changes to the Knowledge is Power action, which I won't really go through, and that's Damien 1. So overall, I think pretty good. He seems a little bit more in line now. The Memories of the Yellow Crypt was probably one of the things that was the most like super bonkers with him. And he also, like, Knowledge is Power, it used to deal irreducible damage, up to 3 irreducible damage, which was pretty bonkers for a bonus action. Now it actually just turns off damage reduction for the target, which is like still pretty good. And he doesn't have the exposed flaws trigger anymore. He got repositioned instead. So what do you guys think about Mr. Damien?
Honestly, these changes are enough to make me not hate myself for the idea of I want to try out this crew.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of that. Essentially, I view this as they toned him down from my job is to kill one thing a turn and paint a target for the crew to kill if that thing dies, and that was just too much. So now I'm going to paint a target and do a few other things that might be hurting that target, and setting up cards and things. But I think you're going to have to actually watch his survivability since he still only has defense 5. So I don't think he's going to be as up the field as he was anyway. Like he's not going to be getting into melee as much, but his other attacks are 10 inches, so I don't think that's going to be too big of a deal.
I mean, he's not going to have the shielded that he used to get kind of baked in every single turn, which is obviously a slight hit to his durability. He's not like squishy though. I mean, he's only stat 5 defense, but he has 7 willpower. He has 12 wounds now. He has superiority complex, which is like pretty great. Because there are going to be conditions flying all over the place, especially in this particular crew. They like to throw those out. So he's going to get some damage reduction there. And like at the end of the day, he still has an attack that you can just get rams on. And now it's a 3-4-6 that heals him for 1 and then another 1. So like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
The problem was that before he used to do that, and he also had a bonus action that did 3 irreducible damage, which not awesome. So yeah, he seems still very strong. I'm still scared of this dude. Like I think he can probably kill basically anything that he goes up against. But at least he actually has to work for it a little bit more now.
Yeah, and he actually has to actually worry a little bit about the swing back at him.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, because before it was like he had stones and he had superiority complex and he frequently had shielded, so he was already reducing like probably 2 damage, maybe down to 0 on the first couple of attacks.
Yep.
And then
I had one of my regular friends that I got into the game. He started off with OG Damien when they first launched at Gen Con, just because everybody was freaking out about the lore and how cool the crew sounded and everything. I mean, it's amazing lore for the crew, and very beautiful models. But after 15-0 of him beating me as a starter player, I was just like, and I took, and I mean, to say that I have like 50 crews, I could turn my webcam to show my wall of shame of all my crews. And I'm like, well, okay, clearly I'll just bring this. Oh, well, never mind. Then you don't have an answer to this. And I mean, obviously they've been working slowly to tamper down the acidic level of how powerful this crew was. Yeah. But I was going to say superiority complex is what my friend used to call, are you really going to focus? Because we realized if you spend a focus to attack, and he had shielded on him, he's like, cool, well, I'm also going to reduce by 1 and I have shielded. So do you want to do that or do you just want to attack? And I'm like, I hate everything you're doing to me right now. Like you make the back of my eyes burn.
Oh, that's rough.
We used to argue between Damien 1 and Damien 2, but I called it Damien turn 2 or Damien turn 3 because I wanted to know what round which master was going to be in the middle of my crew.
Oh man!
I didn't ask for title version. I'm like, so is this going to be round 2 Damien or round 3 Damien? I just want to know which one I'm dealing with.
Yep.
Oh,
that's painful in its accuracy.
I fortunately have avoided most confrontations with Damien up to this point, so I got off lucky, I suppose.
Consider yourself lucky.
I think I played against him once when he first released, and the player was not crazy skilled with it, so like I got off pretty soft.
I've said this before, but like one of the things is like after these erratas, it's really great to catch somebody who never saw what came before and give them this card and watch them be excited to play this model. Because all of us old people on a rocking chair go, back in my day, he used to do this to me. But like to be fair, a lot of what these erratas I find it's tamping everything into pretty good, and pretty good is a great place to be. Some things can be great and some things can be just all right. And like if you're in those 3, you're doing pretty good. You get all the noise when these erratas happens are the, oh my god, this is broken still, or oh my god, this became broken, or they just tamped this down so much I'm going to sell my whole crew. And you always find about 6 months later, people find a different way to use the model or a specific like use case. And I think all of the witness keyword now sits still, I'd probably say in the top half of Arcanist quite comfortably.
Oh yeah.
Like it's always in like, how do you compare a cannon and a hand grenade? Well, it depends what you plan on doing with it. Like they're both still going to be completely fine. Yes, Raspy might do one thing better, but you want to play this crew? I can't think of a lot of like strats and schemes for GG4 where the witness keyword can't play pretty much entirely in keyword and still do great, especially with these changes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, like, if I'm rolling up to a table and I look across the table and the master has the runic blade attack that we already described and a 10-inch range non-projectile that targets willpower, does 2-3 blast, 5 blast, and potentially gives out injured and has drain magic and draw out secrets. And oh, by the way, this guy also has confiscated lore and a bonus action that can turn off like armor and shielded. Thankfully, not soul stones, but like that's a lot to deal with. And I don't think that any model with that back of card could possibly be viewed as bad or below the curve, because this dude, man, he's brutal still. Super brutal.
Yep. Every time an errata comes out and people are like, oh, the sky is falling because the thing I played, which was broken, and I'm upset that it's not broken in the same way anymore, I just hear the echo of Craig Shipman in my head whenever he would do podcast episodes on Malifaux. Every errata one, he would say, I don't want to cover the errata because it's all hot takes. You got to play it.
Yeah.
And that is better advice than I think pretty much I've heard anywhere else as far as erratas go.
Yeah, I'll be interested to play against him and see how the game feels. I don't own him, so I'm not going to be playing him anytime soon. But I still feel like just looking at the card, he's going to be in a super good place. He, I think, is probably still the premier damage dealing master in Arcanists. Like Tony 1, maybe in certain circumstances can do more, but like
I think Tony does more, but he fits into more pools more easily.
He does, yeah. And it's a lot harder to shut him down. Tony has a couple of things that are just absolute kryptonite to her. So,
yeah, or to avoid his damage, because get in close or stay back, you're still getting smacked. Like, I think that his threat range is wherever it needs to be consistently, and I think that's always a great place to be for your master.
Yep, definitely. All right, so you know what? Roman, I'm going to let you say showgirls. So tell us about this model that didn't actually exist. One little quick piece of trivia. Showgirl is actually the very first non-Bayou model that I ever bought when I was playing Malifaux in 2E. Specifically because they used to be mercenaries, so you could hire them out of keyword, and they were really good with Brewmaster 1.
Yep.
So, yes, they were.
Yeah, they were.
Bought the Showgirl, the Colette core box, just so I could get a Showgirl to play with Brewmaster. So tell us why Showgirls are actually a model in 3rd edition again, Raman.
So they have definitely moved up from we are a 5-stone tax to get your magical training into the crew. Now, what they do is actually support the crew in ways that do not lead to them immediately dying.
Yeah.
So, first off, huge thing for the performer crew in general, backup dancer. If they are near any other, all damage suffered by friendly living performers within 3 is reduced by 1. It's an aura, so they're always in it.
Yeah.
Living, thank God.
Yeah, it's not going to help the duet. The duet does not need help. If anything, I'm somewhat surprised to not see them on an errata to be like, you can only bring them in keyword, because it seems like every other keyword can do goofy shit with them that performer can't.
Every time the core phase gets skipped, it's like one more round.
I wonder how much of that is, in order to change the duet, you have to change then the choreography and then change 4 mannequin cards.
Yeah.
Which I could see good changes there. But anyway, aside, they still have Don't Mind Me. They still have Celebrity. Their back of their card changed entirely. Yeah. They actually have a melee action that they will use now because it's unassuming demeanor and everybody loves it.
It's a good one.
And it's great for the style of like fluff wise. They are, hi, I'm a celebrity. You don't expect me to have a weapon. Oops, stab.
Yeah.
Also potential distracted. I think my favorite change on them is they exchanged out lure that essentially said, if you are anywhere but in the last inch of this range, I am pulling you into range to charge me for most models. Which was then focus charge, and if they have a 5 in their damage track, they die.
Yep.
Now we have Beckon and Call, which is, I don't want you to come to me. I want you to go over there to the duet, or to Cassandra, or to Carlos, who's actually going to deal with you.
Or Colette.
Yeah.
I gotta say, anytime that I play against Seamus, well, mostly Seamus, because that's where you see Beckon and Call a lot occasionally with, I think Beckoners have it as well, right? Yeah.
I know
maybe they don't.
Sybil does.
Okay. Sybil does.
I was thinking,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So anytime I play against a model with Beckon and Call and an opponent uses against me, I swear I have to do a double take. Like, wait, what just happened? It's so good. It's such a good ability.
It's really good.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And these have a built-in trigger that says the target suffers negatives to attack the showgirl, which helps because they did lose manipulative, but honestly, I'll take backup dancer over manipulative at this point. Like that's going to be huge.
Well, especially because you often they're setting things up or they're running in, like they're usually your throwaway actions so you can save your bigger models. So that's the problem. Like you want to be able to, something that puts them just on negatives when they get to act means great. I can go with them first and I'm protecting them. Because like there's a lot of abilities in Malifaux that kind of shoehorn you into when you have to activate a model, and having to activate your cheaper models later in the game so that they stay alive always means like, okay, I guess I'll go with my master and my henchman as my first 2 actions then. But
and then they gained not 1 but 2 bonus actions. It's like they're making up for lost time. I love it. We have Onward, which means they can finally do the thing they've been wanting to do all edition, which is put down two scheme markers a turn, baby, which is 2
whole
celebrities.
Scheme markers.
Which is 2 celebrities, which is actually starting to get out enough like distracted to help in meaningful ways if people are, putting up focus like they do early. And then if you're not doing that for some reason, if you're happy with where you are and you don't need to walk, you have Wow the Audience, which is 6 versus willpower. It's only a 6-inch range, but target must discard a card, and if it's engaged by a friendly performer model, more distracted. So I literally, I don't think, could not be happier with these than the changes we have. And a big part of that also is I love anytime a core box minion gets a glow up, so that they are something that someone will want to hire beyond games that have like, I just bought a core box, let's play a core box versus core box game. Like, I am looking forward to taking at least one of these in a crew going forward.
Yeah. I have a little bit of a beef with, it's funny because it's only a beef because Onward is actually like a pretty well designed action. You can kind of adjust the stat to, suit whatever the soulstone cost of the model is that's going to be taking it. It's got all the restrictions of a regular walk action. Like, it's a very well designed bonus. So, like, you can add triggers if you want. I kind of feel like a lot of times you look at a model that's going through an errata or a rework and you're like, it's not quite good enough, so let's just stick Onward on there. This model I don't feel like is in that place because exactly what Roman said, the interaction between being able to drop 2 ski markers a turn versus 1 ski marker a turn with the performer keyword, or with the the performer keyword is pretty significant. So I feel like this doesn't feel like just a tacked on action. It feels like it was really thought out. And I appreciate that. It's pretty solid. And WoW the audience is crazy good, but so is Onward. So like, just you're gonna have to pick one because you can't pick both. So I don't know what to tell you.
Well, and mechanically, I think like Onward keeps them fast enough that you can have mannequins follow them. Suddenly, a flanking force of a showgirl and a mannequin, which you've never seen on the table ever, unless somebody's just learning the game. This little cheap force is running up at speeds you can't predict, and you're like, I got to go all the way over to deal with those little buggers over on the side flank. So like, I really like that. Plus, the fact that it's friendly only or friendly living only means that they're supporting, like they're doing exactly what they should be thematically, which are they are the girls at the theater. They are the ones that run the show. They're the interns basically, right? Like interns to low level celebrity. That's kind of like their stage. And so when you play the crew, a lot of the times when you play against Colette, these are all of our MVPs. We bring all of our MVPs to every show, and it's like, well, what about the workers? It's like, oh no, the union says they have to have.
Yeah, what about the understudies?
Yeah, exactly. So
we don't have a chorus line. We have a chorus line of versatile models. Those are our minions.
And like it all actually balances really well because the fact that they'll always have the damage reduction 1, which can't be ignored by most damage reduction because it's usually armor or shielded. The fact they have that, plus the fact when they interact, they can put out the distracted, means that they actually will be a bit more survivable than you expect if they're near somebody trying to get for things for like voting or grabbing cloak and dagger tokens. Because you run up, you grab it, you put distracted on the closest thing to you, and they charge in. Suddenly you're on armor 1, quote unquote, 5 wound model, and you're on distracted. Well, that might take that big beater now its entire activation, or just may not bother because like, why am I even swinging on this thing? Right. Which the tissue paper they were before, you wouldn't. Yeah. And they were never fast enough to be flankers either. Like, of course, you have the Corfe duet, as we mentioned, is one flank. But, like, you never had a showgirl running up a flank. You had a showgirl, as you mentioned, with a magical training upgrade. I think it's the right one.
Hiding in the corner.
Yeah, hiding behind a building, saying, please don't see me, please don't see me. I know I'm a showgirl, but I'd like to be a hide girl, please.
Let me have my 7th card, please. Don't look at me. Don't notice me, senpai.
This model is totally fine for 5 points. It doesn't need anything else. But like, how cool would it be if their unassuming demeanor had unexpected ferocity on it as well? Oh my gosh, that'd be cool. Amazing.
So it's actually funny you mentioned that. The other thing I like about this thematically is if you put this card in someone's hand and then you put a Rotten Bell card in someone's hand and said, this is a dead one of those. And now the rules are actually a lot closer. Like you look, they're somewhere between a bell and a dead doxy, and this is when they were alive. These are the 3 stages of a showgirl in Malifaux, kind of in a really depressing way.
Yeah. So great job on the showgirls. I'm digging them. And
nice.
Now we're out of the Arcanists and into the best for faction. The Bayou. And Bayou got 2 models that were adjusted, and I kind of love them both. But we're gonna start with the first one, which is McTavish, the model that I haven't played since 2E, except in like one game when I thought he was going to be worth it, and he wasn't. So anyway, McTavish had a lot of changes. He lost Penetrating Stench, which is fine because the number of times I've actually remembered to use that stupid ability, I can probably count on one hand. And instead he got better Demise Eternal, which is pretty amazing.
Shocking. Honestly, shocking. That one really surprised me. But yeah, losing Penetrating Stench, that's really fine, especially since they changed the direction they took with McTavish into a ranged character.
Yeah.
So, like, he doesn't want to be engaged.
Nope. And his demise camouflage, because that's a new demise, is once per turn, after this model is killed, it may discard a card to heal for and drop a ski marker into base contact with itself. The reason that matters is because he also he gained a front of card ability called Swamp Screen, which is enemy models treat friendly ski markers within Aura 6 of this model as concealing, which is wild.
Awesome.
It's not just the one that's in front of him, it's all of
Insane.
them. It's all of them. So yeah, he gets that. His backup card changed pretty significantly. He used to be kind of a confused model because he's got like a big gun. He was always known as being sort of like a pseudo sniper. He had a long carbine, which was like a range 4, but it only had stat 5. It only had maim for a trigger. I think that was it.
Yeah, it was kind of lame.
And his melee attack was stat 6, and it also had an execute on it with a pretty baller damage track. But he didn't really have anything on his card that would keep him alive in melee. Like, you could get him in there and he would die, or you could stand back and shoot with like a really marginal gun that just didn't really do a whole lot. So they swapped things out. Now he's got stat 5 on his melee. He does have puncture, which is great. I mean, if somebody does get in on you and you have a 3-4-5 with puncture on a henchman, like, still pretty good.
Yeah. But again, he also has on the move and unimpeded. So, like, if he's stuck in, he can just get out and shoot you anyways.
Exactly. Yeah, you can just get out and shoot. So he now has on his long carbine stat 6 instead of stat 5, which is great. He gained armor piercing, and boy, oh boy,
thank the Bayou gods.
Yeah. So
on a henchman with a 14-inch range gun.
A
14-inch range gun that also ignores concealment. And
I killed Hinamatsu turn 2 on Friday because of that gun.
5, and now he's got armor piercing. And the reason that we're making such a big deal about this is because if you haven't played Bayou, they don't really have a super lot of ways to deal with armor. The only way that they've really been able to do it in the past is do a lot of ping damage.
And to a degree, Neverborn as well, because he's a Swamp Fiend, so it's worth considering Zoraida and Neverborn.
Yeah, so basically now you can have McTavish and Angel Eyes in the same crew.
That is I was going to address that. I am concerned about that.
Yeah,
that has me concerned that Zoraida's going to get another hit with the Nerf bat in about a year when people are tired of playing against Angel Eyes McTavish, getting like 5 shots each or whatever.
Yeah, it's not great. He did also gain an I Can Dig It trigger on his gun, which is going to drop a ski marker into base contact with this model, which again is concealing. Pretty great.
So good.
And his bonus action got reworked completely. It is now a stat 6, needs an 8. So basically you can cheat anything but a Black Joker or a 1. And the reason that they did that is because it has 4 triggers. And you want to be able to kind of select which trigger you do, because the base action is just target a marker in line of sight, push 2 inches towards it. That's it. But the triggers are really what makes this shine. Importantly, he has quick shot, so he is a expensive 9-stone henchman that can actually get 3 effective AP, which he didn't have before. Also on a mask, he has reposition, he has surge for some card draw, which I'm never going to complain about, and he has another I Can Dig It trigger to drop a scheme marker into base contact. Yeah, I mean, overall, he's just a great model. I think that he really kind of like epitomizes what a versatile model can be. He has a couple of jobs. He does those jobs very well. There's not like a ton of keyword synergy on this model, either with the Swamp Fiend keyword, which he is a part of, or with like that many other keywords in Bayou. Like, the only thing that he really does is crews that drop a lot of scheme markers. He can make all those scheme markers into concealing. But like, aside from that, he's just a generally good, strong model. Are there any like particular keywords that you guys see him fitting into better than others?
I mean, in Swamp Fiend, of course, obviously, especially like Zoraida 2 is going to do some wacky stuff, because Gator Scramble will go off on a 1. So if you got a 1 amass, you've got either a reposition or a quick shot, for nothing. And I like him in Zip because you don't have to worry about all that concealment you're putting up. And Zip doesn't hate a good gun to cart around on a Skeeter. If you give a Skeeter a ghillie suit, that seems all right. That's what I played on Friday, and it was really nice. Like, here, McTavish, ride along and take some shots. Kill Hinamatsu for me.
Yep. I've had 4 games with him since the Errata popped because I love the model and I've been wanting to mess around. Now, 2 of them were only like 3-round games with some people in my local, but he is so much better on the table than we make him sound online, and we're making him sound great.
Yeah. It's a sight to behold.
Yes, he can shoot 3 times, which is obviously amazing, but the fact that he's got the 3-inch on your move and the reposition means that, I was playing against my friend, and at the end of it, we had a full round game, and it was a Zoraida 1 game I brought him. And the whole game, I was sitting there, and I don't play a lot of sniper models, mostly because I don't like the park and bark kind of style of my model's just here forever. And he's like, oh, so he's size 2? I'm like, size 3. It's like, oh, okay. So I'm over here. I'm like, you're within range. He's like, why? I'm like, 14 inches. He's like, okay, I'm going to move back. I'm like, I have a 3-inch free move. You're going to need to move farther than that. Oh, and then I can also, for a bonus action, move 2 and then move another 3. What? Yeah, so at the beginning of my activation, I'm going to go 8 inches. Wherever you just went, I see you again. I see you again. It's like, I have armor. That's okay. I'll stone for that. You don't have armor.
It's so good.
Especially with Zoraida, because it's like, okay, I can also just get an extra 2 shots out of this with Zoraida 1 if I wanted to. Or Zoraida 2, especially if you put the Inhuman Reflexes that gives the focus for walking. No, what's the one?
Inferiority Complex.
Inferiority Complex. I've been playing too much Neverborn.
I mean, or you can set him up with 12 cups of coffee and turn 1 have him do Mark Territory for 2 focus.
You could.
That too,
it's
but
really
because you could always have him moving, so you can actually have him double focused 8 inches past where he started with a 14-inch gun and a height 3, and it goes, oh, is that your totem? No, it isn't. Was that model over there? No, it isn't.
Yep.
And then what my opponent said too, and he's like, at the end of the game, he's like, you know what's frustrating is he's like, I kept thinking, because I was playing against McCabe, who's usually a pretty tough cookie, and he's like, oh, I'll just send this, and he's like, I mean, he hits pretty hard back. So I got to make sure what I send against him hits hard as well. But when I send something that hits him hard, he has a demise. So I have to hit him hard, let him come back, and hit him hard again, at least twice, because he comes back with just enough health that if I don't have a really heavy beater with focus, it's going to take me multiple activations. And all he has to do is activate and then immediately squeal away better than a model with actual squeal on its card and just book it. He's also an amazing schemer. If you just decide to double move him with either Zoraida, giving him extra move at the beginning of the game, then he goes 3, and then he pushes towards the marker, then he goes another 3, then he walks, and you're like, oh, is this your corner deployment? Well, I'm in here putting a ski marker down by shooting you because it's one of my triggers. I don't even have to interact over here. I will just pepper spray your deployment zone with ski markers while I shoot you on the other side of the board.
Well, and just consider the fact that he can put down a ski marker, and you either flip or cheat that 2 of masks. You basically do your, push towards the back of his base to the front of the ski marker's base. 2 inches is basically going to put him over it. Then reposition 3, you can drop another ski marker.
Yeah.
He can walk, scheme, walk.
Yep. And that's one thing I really
like.
The
2 masks.
You can see kind of, okay, turn 1 and 2, I'm just going to shoot everything. Turn 3, if you need me to scheme, I can shift that gear real fast. That more than everything else is what I really like seeing in these expensive versatiles is the ability
literally
to go,
versatile.
I hired you to do 6 things. Maybe not 6 things. I hired you to do 2 things well and maybe a third thing for a specific deal, say armor piercing.
Yeah. Well, the final 2 games that I played, the thing that I realized is that actually running him along a flank as fast as you can with any extra pushes or movement and all of his triggers he's an amazing model to throw into your opponent's back ranks or on the farthest flanks and corners because of that 14-inch range and he can push forward and then just push back towards the mailbox he's by or the voting box he's by. So he can just hang out, but a lot of the how they say the beater schemers and stuff, that they say it's the idea of these high damage models that are going, they still have to be where they're going to be to have an effect. I played like with McTavish, you get him roughly in the area. Like a lot of the schemes that say be within 3 of a corner. You're like, well, I don't want to waste a good model sitting in the corner. But these guys have bushwhack. This guy's got a bushwhacker ranged gun, and he's like, oh, it doesn't matter if I'm 3 inches from the corner, I'm hitting past the center point. Like so, I'm affecting 2/3 of the map while I sit here, ignoring concealment and the high enough that I ignore almost all or can see over most terrain and other models.
Yep, it's so
and
good.
I think that there are obviously he's super good and we're all super high on him, obviously, but like there are some things to consider. One of them in particular is that like he is now predominantly a ranged model that doesn't have any way to increase his damage at range, and he also doesn't have any way to give himself focus aside from taking the concentrate action. So like realistically speaking, you know, you could have an activation where you shoot within 3 times, and even if you hit 3 times, you're only hitting 2 damage each time. And then if there's some damage mitigation involved, it's kind of like a feels bad activation. So I'm not saying he's not good enough. I'm just saying that like as good as we're making him sound, he does have some distinct weaknesses. I think he's
reasonable. He's reasonable for his cost now. Yeah. Like he does what you want him to do.
Yeah, and he might have a little too much mobility, in my opinion, but I mean, I'm not saying nerf the guy. We just got a chance to play with him after this whole freaking edition. So,
well, I know we've talked about him a lot, but like the one thing I noticed is like out of the 3, like if you take him, Angel Eyes, and Fuhatsu, and you say like 3 of your big like ranged, oh my god, like this is this Gatling cannon tower thing that I'm worried about. I think, like you said, I think his main thing is all the extra movement he's doing.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to blow models off the table unless you have ways to get them to focus, or if they have if they're relying on armor. Yeah. But you do have to dump resources into them.
Yeah, movement and
which I think keeps him balanced, because especially if you can ignore demise or just ping him to death, like he's not invincible, and you only have so many stones, especially in Zoraida list, for example, for Swamp Queen. You're not usually bringing as many stones because you've got all your card manipulation. So you actually have to think about investing heavier to keep him going, to keep him at that level 10, which I think is a good place for this expensive of a model.
Yeah. The only thing I really wish we could have seen if I was wish listing anything was I wish that there were something on his card that interacted with friendly beasts. That way he could kind of be like the Gator boss. Like
maybe
like if he had like Scent of Blood from that one Frontier guy that nobody actually plays, like that'd be pretty cool, because then he could actually do something with Gators, and then maybe he'd have some synergy with some other beasts. Like you could play maybe play him in like Ulix, because all the beasts are pigs and stuff like that. That'd be cool.
Even if you have that 6-inch aura, like hard to kill for Gators within 6 inches or something, even if you got rid of the concealing terrain ski markers, if there's something that made Gators better, you'd be like, Gators.
Don't get rid of the 6-inch aura of concealment. I like that. Anyway, yeah, so McTavish is great. We love McTavish. And in the pre-show, I voiced some strong positive opinions about the next model on the list, Uncle Bog. Nate said that he was somewhat unconvinced. I gotta sell him on it. So we're gonna move on to Bog.
Again, I'm warmer than I was when I first saw it, but it's gonna take some selling.
Okay, so Bog is a model that when I played at the Nova Open last year, I had not used Bog ever. And then in one of the last games of the Open event, I had the pleasure of playing against Roman for the first time in real life. And I played Ma 1, and I said, you know what? I've never actually played Bog. I'm going to play Bog because I think he's going to be pretty good in this matchup. And
I didn't remember that was the first time you played him. Oh my god.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever played Bog, because I hadn't actually played Angler before that. And after that game, I said, I am never going to hire this model out of keyword ever again, because he is ridiculous.
I'm not going to say that Bog wasn't too powerful. I will never say that. He was very good for what he was.
And then Nate, I may have to apologize to you, because shortly after that game, I happened to bump into one of the devs that did the roundtable discussion. And I said, hey, so like I just played Bog out of keyword for the first time, and this model's way too good. Like, I really hope that you guys think about maybe adjusting him. And a year later, almost almost to the day, we have a bog adjustment. So
again,
some stuff
very
changed.
fair.
What I'm hearing is Jesse's too powerful. Please nerf.
Yes. Depends on how many drinks I have in me.
Jesse used his one coward's clause like I did. So just think about that. You used your scream at the devs to get an errata done on Bog.
Yep.
How do you feel?
Yep, it worked. I wish that I would have actually used it on wrestlers, but I mean, I'll take this. That's fine. Using my one shot to get a model nerfed, probably not quite what I had in mind, but hey, So Bog. He lost a couple things. He lost inclement weather from the front of his card, which is after this model drops after this model's activation, he drops a severe tide marker in base contact with him. A little bit of a bummer because he loses a little bit of synergy with some of the other angler abilities, but that's okay. They also got rid of
they addressed that, and I get that one because that was so self-sustaining. I totally get pulling inclement weather.
Yep.
This one I'm sad about. The next one I'm sad about.
Yeah, he lost uninvited guest, which Nate is evidently more sad than I am because the number of, again, much like one of the other models we talked about, the number of times that I actually remembered to use this activation, I could count on one hand, or this action, I could count on one hand.
Ability. And that might have been one of my favorite things on his card.
Yeah. So the way that this did work was at the end of this model's activation, if it is on the enemy table half, enemy models within pulse 3 of it must take a TN13 willpower duel or gain distracted 1. Pretty big area, especially off to 50 mil. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
I get why they pulled it. I am sad it's gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Having played a decent amount of Angler just before this came out, what I was really finding that helpful on is Angler has a decent number of target numbers they need to hit. So internally they provide their own card pressure. This, if you positioned him well, caused card pressure on the enemy's crew, and that helped it out. So it didn't feel like you were
kind of even things out a little bit.
Exactly.
Right. One of the things that changed on the back of his card is one of the probably most important things that I thought needed to be changed is his tear apart action lost the built-in ram, which means that he didn't get tear off a bite automatically on every single attack, which was ridiculous.
See, that's where I kind of disagree because like with losing inclement weather, I don't love that he lost the built-in tear apart or tear off a bite.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean,
like, the combination of those two things, I think, was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think he still has enough. He has enough layers of defensive tech on his card between like laugh off and natural musk and just being a henchman, still being stat 6 defense and still having access to tear off a bite. I think is fine.
Yeah, and like permanent hard to wound because of the natural musk is. And also, like you said, he is a henchman, so if you really need it, you can stone, like most models that like are used to that. If he was an enforcer and they removed that as a built-in thing, I think that'd be
way too far.
Yep. His off the path action changed significantly, and this is actually one of the things that I am the most excited about with this card. So off the path is like a master level action. I still don't think that non-masters should have access to it because it is really, really, really good, but he has it and it's where we're at. So he lost the Gremlin Table Manners trigger, which is like, okay, it was a scry and then you could discard you could look at and discard up to 2 cards from the top of his deck. Like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain. It's pretty good. Yeah. It's gone now.
It's fine.
But what he did gain was the Disturbing Sight trigger, which Disturbing Sight is just pulse out unresisted distracted off the path target. And then he also gained Sinkhole, which is incredibly important for the angler keyword, which we're going to get to in just a sec. Lastly, his Weary Road changed to Choose a Path, which is the same thing that I think Yanlo 2 has now. Yep. Is that correct?
Yep, that's it.
So basically, difference is that he used to be able to just Weary Road. There was no flip. It just happened. Now with Choose a Path, he does have to hit a 6. You still move the target 3, and then you can either drop a scheme marker or remove a marker into base contact with the target. So that is, I think fine, because I think Weary Road is a little too good anyway. And having another option for marker removal is like super good. So the reasons that I like Bog, because all the stuff we've talked about mostly sounds like bad stuff. The reason that I'm really excited about Bog now is that I feel like he does a much better job of actually supporting the angler keyword in particular. If you're looking particularly at the models that utilize distracted, like the new swashbucklers and Mossbeard, being able to pulse out distracted unresisted without your opponent having the opportunity to test against it like they could have with uninvited guest also gives an extra layer of defense to models in any keyword that he's in, and angler in particular. You know, like they have some pretty durable models, but a lot of the time they were kind of relying on the positive flips on defense. Well, now if you're giving out distracted, plus you're getting the other defensive layers that you had on the rest of the keyword models, like I'm feeling pretty good about that. And I just touched on him supporting swashbucklers much better than he did. I feel like swashbucklers are a great model that worked a lot better in the infamous keyword, in particular absolutely. Zip 2, because angler just didn't really have very many ways to put out distracted. Now, with Off the Path, not only is he able to pulse out unresisted distracted, which powers up the swashbucklers, but he can also off the path something else, like an enemy model, drop a tide marker in base contact with that model that then the swashbucklers can push towards because of their front of card ability. So it gives them more mobility. You can potentially pull an enemy towards you, drop a sinkhole, and then push the swashbuckler towards them. The other thing that Sinkhole does is I don't know if anybody's ever played against Clampets 2 and the Ono Ogo Pogo kidnap. But one of the things that made that kidnap so brutal is that the Clampets can put down their own tide marker in base contact with an enemy model using this very same trigger, Sinkhole, but they had to use an AP to do it. Now you can just have Bog put down the Sinkhole in base contact with another enemy model and kidnap them with Clampets 2 and still have 3 actions to beat the shit out of them. So
see, I would have preferred to see the bucket on this list instead of Bog.
Let him have it.
I do think that Ono Ogo Pogo is too good of an action.
Correct.
So now it's actually kind of better than it was because you have another model that can drop a tide marker in contact without actually having to get into melee.
On that note, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go ahead.
Traveling Tourist is also a lot of fun if you're playing Maw.
Oh yeah, I was getting there.
Because you can pick up pit traps and then take a test subject and just throw a pit trap and then jump into it and be like, here we go.
Yeah. So Traveling Tourist was always on this model, and that was one of the reasons that I liked playing it with Ma so much, because Ma is immune to pit traps, come to find out, because of her front of card. So you can just off the path on Ma, move her up the board, cycle some cards, and pick up the pit trap that she drops in your deployment zone behind you, just to draw some cards on turn 1 and take it with her. Or in mid-game, drop it underneath other enemy models, which immediately, because it's a place, not a drop, triggers the hazardous effect without your opponent being able to resist it. And the Disturbing Sight Distracted Pulse also, incidentally, because it helps out swashbucklers, makes him so much better in Zip 2 that now I think he is an auto-include when I take Zip 2. Because, yeah, pretty good. So, Nate, how did I do?
Okay, you're doing better. The issue I have looking at this card, like I'm getting warmer. I'm getting a lot warmer.
Okay,
on this. Like I'm actually kind of, you're getting me there. The issue I have with what they did here, and it's not going to change anytime soon, but it's adding another target number with Off the Path, and no suits anywhere on the back of this card is just, it makes him feel very resource intensive in a way that I'm not a huge fan of. That is my biggest gripe with what they did with Bog.
Sure.
That he is going to ask a lot of your resources. And
so
I
just
want to feel like it's
and
worth
then you
it.
won't have resource problems. I mean, there's the answer.
Fair enough. I cede my time.
I will back up Nate there. I did not expect I wasn't as down on him as Nate was, but I did not expect to turn around as much as I did. But you make excellent arguments there, Jesse.
Make a damn good point.
Yeah, I very much was missing the uninvited guest because that was such one of a very few distracted cases in addition to the opposing card pressure. But I hadn't considered the fact that Disturbing Sight is not like they don't have a way against it other than to spread out.
Right.
That is a spectacular
because
point.
You can off the path on friendlies. It's literally an unresistible distracted pulse, and if you happen to be throwing around a model that's like a 50 mil, that's pretty significantly large area.
That's hardy.
Or if you're throwing a buckaroo through people, so that they're taking the trample test and then getting distracted. Yeah, I see that.
Yep.
I think the thing that would have made this, I'm with Nate. I think he needs one built-in suit, probably on off the path. I think it should be Sinkhole, because then his role becomes and I hadn't considered it from the bucket problem, but
the bucket problem.
The bucket problem.
If they put the bucket on the list at the same time, they could have done that.
Right. But I'm my thought when I first read this was, if you build in the RAM there to give him Sinkhole, suddenly his role becomes, hey, I can move the minions that don't like make their own tide markers around, and I can support them from range, and I can go ahead and do the thing that the standard clamp, it's the family car Slurrid can't do, which is project pools anywhere. And that is one of their big things of, I need to see an enemy come into contact with a tide pool so that they have to discard or else I draw, and they don't have a way to project them.
Right.
With this, they would.
Right.
I think if they build in that RAM, we suddenly, like, he still feels good for 9 cost. There might be a bucket problem, but I think at that point we no longer, neither Nate or I have the issue of he's resource intensive to fill his role. I
have one issue with the Uncle Bog thing that we have not addressed.
Why
the hell is Richard more expensive?
Did they make it more expensive?
Yeah, he needs a 10 now instead of a 9, I think.
Who has played Uncle Bog and been like, you know what the real issue is I'm getting this gator too quickly?
Hold on.
Oh, no, he's not more expensive.
Is he not?
It's the same. It's a 10.
No, it's the same.
Yeah, it's always been a 10.
It was always a 6 to 16 with a crow.
Yeah, 6 to 16.
Oh. Well, okay, never mind. You can even leave that in to make me an idiot. I swore it was a 9 to get him, but
yeah, no, I heard somebody on another like content thing, another podcast, say that, and I was like, oh yeah, that's weird. And then I just took it at face value without actually looking at my app, which hasn't been updated yet.
Maybe I heard that, but
yeah,
no, I
you probably did.
Okay, in that case, make Richard cheaper. 10 is ridiculous for a gator.
So I had an idea that I thought would have been fun. This is just like a thought experiment thing of give Bog a demise called I'm late to the party, which when he dies lets him flip to summon Richard with a +2 and a crow to the stat.
That'd be dope.
That'd be fantastic.
I thought that'd be fun. Just like if you didn't summon Richard the whole game, then Bog dies, you flip. If you can flip or cheat an 8, you get a free gator.
Oh no way, guys!
Just for your trouble.
We should have done the demise for McTavish. Is that he comes down to 4 health and drops a gator.
Surprise gator!
Surprise gator!
There you go.
Oh, do we need a McTavish dismounted model?
Oh, God.
Exactly.
So, quick little beef about McTavish before we move on from Bayou. I have never understood why the art on McTavish's card shows him riding on the gator, and the model in none of its iterations has ever ridden on the gator. It's always been him standing next to it. But anyway,
personally, now that he's actually a gun model, I want to see people mod him so the gator is like sitting tall and Tavish is using the top of its head as a
gun rest.
A gun rest. That would be spectacular.
So,
2 gators in a ghillie suit.
Yeah,
perfect. Exactly. 100%.
So moving on, Explorer Society. The first one of these we're probably going to have a lot to say about, and the other ones we're probably just going to be like, okay, thanks, that was awesome. Appreciate it.
Yay.
So one of them is the model that I think anybody that's ever played them, especially with McCabe and maybe Ivan to a lesser degree, knew had to happen.
Nexus.
or Nexus. New was a change that had to happen, and that was botanists getting a little bit of a nerf.
Thank God.
They did go down in cost. They're only 5 now. They lost a wound, went down to 6 from 7. Their base move went up to 5, which is great. But their feed me action now only happens at the start of the model's activation, and it only affects the activating botanist. So they can basically pick up a marker when they activate and gain a grow token, instead of just gaining a grow token anytime a marker is picked up anywhere near them. So that it really slows down the number of grow tokens that they can gain. They're not going to be getting 2 or 3 or 4 over the course of a turn or 2, and you're not going to be getting them maxed out on grow tokens turn 1 before they activate.
They only get a flat +1 anymore.
And
now.
that's the other trick, is they don't gain +1 up to a max of 2 on their stats for grow tokens. Now they just get a flat +1 if they have any grow tokens. They also lost Grim Feast, which is like kind of a bummer, because it was not really something you use that often anyway, but having an emergency heal on them was kind of nice. But they gained the Cuttings action, which allows them to summon another botanist, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, it's fun.
So yeah, it's fun. So basically, I think if they discard 3 or 4, I lost my card
3 or more.
here. 3 or more. So if they discard 3 or more grow tokens, then they get to summon another botanist in base contact. Basically, because you can really only gain a max of 1 grow token a turn. That means you're not going to be doing this until turn 3.
Unless you hit an enemy with tasty snacks on the ram trigger on their melee attack.
Yeah. Unless you get him in melee and you hit the ram trigger, then you can gain him a little bit faster than that. But
if you're extremely lucky and hit 2 rams and a melee attack on turn 1, you could summon a botanist turn 1.
Theoretically summon a botanist turn 1.
In a perfect world.
One thing that's kind of interesting about Cuttings is that it's a bonus action, which we knew, but it also doesn't even require a flip, which is, I guess, okay, because
with
getting
the cost of it, I don't
it.
hate it.
Easiest.
Yeah.
Especially since if you're minimum doing it at 3, then you're removing their grow token. So now you have a decharged botanist.
Yeah. And the botanist you're summoning it is not as slow. It only has 3 wounds.
Right.
Yes.
And technically it says you can discard 3 or more. So I guess if you get lucky and you summon and you get extra grow tokens, you could bring one in with like up to max.
Correct.
5, 4, even 6 maybe if you're super lucky. Who knows? But yeah, I think at the end of the day, these things needed to change, because having a move 6 with onward model that also could get to stat 7 defense was like pretty obnoxious. And then if you played it with McCabe 2, they could be effectively stat 8, which is like almost unassailable.
Yeah.
It needed to happen. And I look at these guys and I'm like, yeah, I will still play these models. I think they're fine. Especially at only 5 stones. Explorer Society is not a faction that has a super lot of like good low cost models. So yeah, I'll play them.
Yeah, I think overall these were a good change. I'm kind of curious as to why the Cuttings became a thing.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
And I'm curious about that.
I think so. My theory on that is that since they nerfed them to a point where you're not just going to like put 2 or 3 on the table just because they maximally work together with what they do. They wanted to give you a way to be like, you're probably only going to hire 1 anyways. Let's give you a way to get at least another one maybe on the table.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's kind of my theory on why they did it that way.
Yeah, I like that. The one concern I have is, since Feed Me is the only non-suited way they gain it, and it's specifically at the start of their activation. That means even if you're hiring 1, you are either, like with McCabe or Ivan, you're making sure you have an extra marker you didn't need for anything else.
Yeah.
Because now it's they are removing it, not you were removing it for the thing you needed it for anyway. And also, once they start getting into the enemy markers, you need to plan their activation beforehand, or whatever movement you're using to get them there, to get them in range. I almost wonder if Feed Me should be slightly larger now, but I haven't played these yet, so time will tell. either way, I think they solved the problem we had for sure.
Yeah.
And you're exactly right. A 5-stone, pretty solid still minion in Explorers is going to be a huge boon to the whole faction.
And I think that one important build here. Sorry, Kyle, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries.
One important build here is that the previous version of Feed Me, it only let them gain grow tokens if a terrain, scrap, or corpse within 4 was picked up. The new version of Feed Me is just at the beginning of this model's activation, it removes any marker.
They have generic marker removal.
So they have generic marker removal, which is huge because Explorers as a faction don't really have great access to generic marker removal, except with like an upgrade that is very difficult to budget for. Like it's really tough to budget for. And the ability that actually picks up the scheme marker is very short range. It takes a bonus action slot. Like it's not great. This gives generic marker removal without taking an action, basically at the cost of just activating this model, which I think is actually a pretty big deal for the faction as a whole.
Yeah, and it's anti-scheme as well, which is useful because it doesn't say non-scheme.
Exactly. And it actually makes it easier to set up the grow on turn 1 because it used to be that you had to figure out a way to drop a terrain, corpse, or scrap near them. So that meant that some crews just like couldn't really use them because they didn't have ways to generate those tokens. Now it's like you can just take a trash AP from a crappy minion or like a totem that's not insignificant, and that's all you need. Drop a scheme marker and you've got a grow token just like that. Much easier to set up, and it makes them easier to use in all crews instead of being very, very good in like 2 crews or 3 crews and then never used in the rest of them.
The other thing, the more I'm looking at them, like their melee still isn't bad, especially with the +1 from the Feed Me. I think I'm going to end up using their Shockwave more now. Because with a grow token, it's going to need a 5. It's hand pressure on the opponent. It does the damage, but it doesn't injured. And there's enough things in Explorers where if I'm suddenly going against 1 less stat, say Ivan's summoning, because your stat technically is still the stat it is for his determining can I summon off of you. But now it's 1 less. Heck yeah.
I mean it's important to note that they do have a trigger on their Shockwave, which granted it's a short range Shockwave. It's only 6 inches and it's only a Shockwave 1. But you can hit the trigger to remove another non-scheme marker touched by a blast or pulse generated by the Shockwave. I don't think that you're very often going to be discarding grow tokens to get extra Shockwave markers anymore. It used to be that like you kind of could get enough of them in some matchups that it was kind of irrelevant. You could start dropping like 2 or 3 Shockwaves pretty trivially, especially like toward the end of the game. I don't really think you ever do that anymore.
Probably not.
But I guess it's still an option, so whatever.
I think there's 2 gears you play them in. Either you don't spend the Shockwaves on the spores because you're aiming to summon more botanist, or you keep 1 Shockwave on them and keep spending their their tokens on the spores, so that you're putting out multiple Shockwaves and spreading out more of that injured and card pressure.
And one thing that you can kind of do with them, and it's not like a super efficient way to do things, but if you're just trying to make sure that you're getting a grow token every turn, because they have onward, like you can realistically just walk onward, interact, drop a scheme marker for them to eat their next activation, and then you're basically guaranteed to get a grow token every time they activate. Which is not great, but I mean at least they're still walking twice, and then if you don't need the grow token, well, you've got a scheme marker, which is points of prizes, boys. So
Absolutely. Again, I think it's not what I would have done, but I'm not a game dev, so I like where these ended up.
Hopeful prospect. So basically all of the Explorer Society starter box models got adjusted, which is great because
thank God
it was the first.
They actually look like a starter box now.
It was the first stab at a starter box. I think starter boxes are great. I really like the design. I like how they enable people to get into the game. I know that some people are like, we should have a 2-player starter set. I don't think that we need a 2-player starter set. I think that the starter box design is great. Not all starter boxes are created equal. this was kind of the standout really bad one, and most of the other ones are perfectly serviceable. Well, now this one's pretty serviceable too. How about that?
So before we get into details, I'll go on my like tiny mini rant. As someone who's volunteered for Weird at Gen Con 5 years now, all of our intro games now are like learn to plays are all with the starter boxes now that they have them.
Yep.
And I have stopped calling them starter boxes when I talk to people about them. They are intro boxes, beginner boxes, all these things that you want to say. They're not. They're just a little mini crew because they're not any easier. They're like in general, most of the boxes, they don't have a lot less rules. Their interactions are very heavy. And when you're trying to teach people how to play, like I've talked to some people who do the demo games that skip half of the rules on the front of the card and say, I'm just going to teach you how to play basic Malifaux. But what I always tell people, because they're like, oh, like you just have like a learn to play or like an easy starter box. Like I want to play this faction. Where's their starter box? And I'm like, you're using the wrong term. It is a versatile box. It is a box of models you can use with your crew, any crew you play. And in order to make them useful later, they are just as complicated and complex, or for the most part, as most other Malifaux models. This isn't easier to learn with. It's just you get your chance to kind of learn the mechanics with a bit of a feel and a fluff. And where
I think that what the starter boxes should have in them, because I like the design of them, I like the way that they introduce people to factions, and I like that they come with all the doohickeys and stuff that you need to actually play the game. I think that each starter box just needs to have cards with starter rules. So like this is the Koji you use in the starter box, and you only use these rules on him. This is the Koji you use in the real game, where you actually have to use things like protection money and his stupid, hazardous shielded thing that like try to run a demo with that and it doesn't work. So what I do literally when I run demos with these guys is I have photocopied cards that I've just blacked out some rules from. And I say, these are the rules we're using for the demo. When you actually play the models, you're going to have these rules.
My first year doing the intro game, when they still ran them at the actual booth in the sales hall as well as the event hall, where it's noisy and it's chaotic and people just walk up and say, what's this game about? I remember they had these guys and they had the jockeys. And I'm like, well, let me tell you, this is going to get weird. Because, you set the hopeful prospects up at the actual back edges of the board and say, these jockey models are going to get there anyways. Like, this is such... but anyways, they're cool sets. And I think, like I say, it's actually valuable that a lot of games make these intro crews or starter crews so simple that later on, you'll never use them. Like, you'll never plug and play the models into anything. And I will say that while you don't, in general, use a lot of the starter models later down the road, I would say that there's a spattering of, for the most of them, there's a time and place to take like one or two of the models. And I'm glad that they simplified this box, before we get into the details. They streamlined it a little bit. It makes a little bit more sense. It is not a starter-friendly box. It was one of the worst for that. Especially because one of the coolest rules you can't do in a demo game.
Oh my God! Don't even.
Even if it happens, you don't get to do it.
It was so dumb.
And it's heartbreaking because everyone gets so excited to go. I'm sorry, spoiler. Don't have any other models for you to turn into. So this is it.
There were no models for him to turn into.
Yeah, exactly.
So with all that said, and those were some great points. Thank you for that, Kylie. Let's talk about them. So they actually have a keyword now. They have the society keyword, which is pretty cool.
And they're significant.
And they're and hopeful prospects, which we're going to talk about right now, are significant, because a starter box model with insignificant is just not great.
Makes it a little hard to play the henchman hardcore strategy.
Yeah. They got rid of the welcome to the society rule, which is the thing that lets them hold on.
Replace into a keyword minion.
Yeah. So that was the thing that when they kill a model, they could replace into a keyword minion. It was really clunky. It was hard to use. And then sometimes you would get like an ancient construct, because pretty good, right? Yeah.
I did it once in a Cooper crew, and then I regretted turning it into a harpoonist.
Well, harpoonist might not have been the right choice.
I was like, oh man, I would have preferred having the condition removal and healing.
Yeah, imagine that.
Whoops.
Yeah, so other than that, they just got a couple of tweaks to their actions, and they gained Creep Along, which is pretty great. They also gained the Society Honors rule, which is pretty fantastic. So that's a front of card ability where before performing a duel, this model may discard a card to receive a positive flip to that duel. It's an expense. It's a high cost. It's a simple rule that it's kind of nice to see something that is just kind of generally applicable, especially in like a starter box crew. It's easy to teach. Is it a great rule? Not really. Discarding a card for a positive
maybe not
flip
on these guys.
like, yeah, it's not fantastic. The other thing that we get is the did Good Show change? No, it did not. Good Show is the way that it always was. On the back of their card, their knife turned into a rifle slam, which whatever, it didn't actually change appreciably.
It increased their melee range.
It increased their melee range from 0 to 1. So there you go. Broken Down Rifle is now still a 14-inch range, but it went to stat 5, which is great because stat 4 is really, really bad. And it's still 135 with crit strike, which is pretty solid.
Sure, why not?
And then they got Creep Along, which as an alternative to using safety precautions, which is actually a pretty good bonus action, but not always applicable because it has a pretty short range. Kind of nice to see them get something else.
What I do appreciate is it has the same range as Good Show, and anytime you have like multiple things at the same range on a model, it's like, oh, this is the 4-inch. I need friends within 4 inches of you for reasons.
Yeah,
I don't have to enumerate those reasons and think of multiple different ranges.
Probably the most important note on these guys is that I believe that they are now the least expensive model in Explorer Society that is significant.
Yes,
and you can hire them into anything. So 4-stone significant model. I'm not going to complain.
Condition removal.
With condition removal and potential for some healing. Like, this is a model that I can see myself hiring if I've got a couple of stones left or need a specific job done. So
they have a purpose.
And I want to call out on the Society Honors, while that's not like going to turn these into just murder beasts, what it is going to do is if you have a crap card that you're not going to use for anything else, and you have an enemy model that has like a wound or 3 left, but they have, I don't know, manipulative or something else that puts you at a negative concealment, boom, suddenly these guys can have a decent shot at taking them out, as opposed to I'll throw an action that way. It's not a good action, but sure.
You accidentally spike that 6 damage on a crit strike on a focused hopeful prospector, and with a stat 5, it's no longer a meme, right? That's why everybody would celebrate if you killed something. You deserve to turn into an ancient construct. I can't believe you hit anything, let alone killed it. Now with a stat 5 14-inch gun, like you said, if you've got a couple stones left over, it could just park at the back of your one back voting box, put a couple votes in there to make it hard for your opponent, and then sit there and take pot shots and be like, I'm going to kill him. All right, come kill my 4 wound guy. He's got hard to kill. It's going to take you 2 AP. It is not worth it.
Yep. I also just had a mental image of a McCabe crew, because Rough Riders are already great at a 14-inch gun. Theirs is a 2-3-4 with crit strike with a built-in positive.
Oh, yeah.
But suddenly you have 4 14-inch guns.
McCabe gun line.
McCabe suddenly becomes Explorer's Ma, minus the pit traps.
And hey, you're giving out focus when you kill models near them. So
absolutely.
That's all right.
There you go. Not too bad. So moving on I think I actually figured out the way that you're supposed to pronounce this chap's name. So I had to look it up, and I looked for some pronunciations. I think it is Mr. Tongatoro.
Oh, okay.
There we go. I'm going with that.
That's a new one.
Yeah. Some people just call him Mr. N. Whatever.
I just called him Errata's dad.
Errata's dad. Yeah. So he gained the society keyword, he gained a health, and he gained society honors. Sure.
Basic. Easy.
I mean, I think that the reason that the reason that you hired this guy was for neurotoxins, and I don't really think that that's any different now. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, he's okay.
He's got some good. He has some good obey tricks, like especially with bully. If you have models that are cheaper, like built-in bully with obeys can be kind of cool.
That
saying...
he can throw a positive on. So like if you're trying to protect yourself with concealment, like I'm just gonna bully that guy. Go do the thing I want you to do. I think he has a place. I think he's decent.
Yeah.
And again,
I mean, he always
defense 6, 10 wounds, 9 cost, solid.
Yeah.
He always had a place. I think my beef with him was that he always had a place. His place just wasn't really that good, and he was a high enough cost model that you'd have to take out something else that was critical to the keyword to fit him in.
Yeah. And he's not a McTavish for the same cost.
No.
Though I love the combination when you obey an enemy model, give them injured and focused, because then you get them to charge somebody and spend that focus, and then they're standing there and they're still injured. You're like, you kind of feel like you're getting Magical Christmas Land on a double trigger.
That's really the best thing on his card. If you're not hiring him for neurotoxins, it's being able to do that. Aside from that, he's okay. I don't love him. I'm happy that they made some adjustments, but anyway. Tannenbaum, our favorite map dweeb.
Christopher Christmas Tree.
Yeah. He is no longer Seeker, which is good because the fact that there was a Seeker model in the starter box with no other Seeker models was really weird. He gained the Society keyword. His Chronicle is gone because he's not Seeker anymore. And he gained kind of a cool little ability called Well Provisioned. The way that
kind
this
of the
one
starter
works
box
is,
special now.
Yeah, exactly. It's the starter box special. So it's basically every starter box has something that does something like this. When he activates, if he's within 6 of a friendly master or henchman, he draws a card. If it's a friendly Tangatoro, then he draws a card and gets a card from the model's discard pile with value 5 or less. Like, kind of cool. Good for the discards to kind of work with Society honors. He gained Society honors because all the starter box models get that. He lost Chatty to get Society honors, which is like fine. I don't actually think Chatty's a very good ability.
It depends on the model it's on.
Yeah,
and he wasn't a model for it to be on.
No, he didn't want to be near the action, so not great. He lost Manipulative and got hard to kill.
Model to have Chatty.
Exactly. He lost Manipulative and got hard to kill, which I think is a great trade. His comprehensive notes actually changed into his melee action, which is a little weird. But basically it's a 2/3/4 that gets to look at the top card of the target's fate deck. It's a melee that he's probably never going to use. So whatever.
But if he does, it's a stat 6 versus willpower, which is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
Most importantly, his Ancient Words is now stat 6 because it was stat 5 before, and that was terrible.
Yeah.
And he got Field Kit to heal instead of Surge to draw a card, which I'd kind of like to have both on there, to be perfectly honest.
He's getting the 2 cards,
be unreasonable,
possibly, though.
Yeah.
He's getting the card draw in front of card. And honestly, hilariously, that kind of makes him better in Seeker.
Yeah, kind of.
Here's a Field Kit, do Chronicle.
Yeah. And then, as we said before, if there's a model that's a little below the curve, then just throw Onward on it. He got rid of Rewrite the Story, which was a rule that I feel like they really, 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 really wanted to make work, and it just didn't work.
Again,
it was a lot of text. So let's just give him Onward, and that's fine by me.
Yep.
They've done it twice now. Don't do it again. It's not worth it. It's not worth doing the scheme change.
Can't force it through.
Stop it.
I wonder. Like, I'm first reading his knew the well provision ability, and I was wondering if you'd start to see him in EVS. But then I realized you would need to have Nagatoro with him in order to get that extra 5 or less.
Yeah.
Wait, is EVS is it 5 or less for their cards? I can't remember. When's the last time I played?
It's anything of a specific
their
suit is a 9.
Yeah. So having that 5 is a 9.
Yeah.
For someone.
So in theory, drawing 2 useful cards. Being able to do that. I don't again, now that I realize you have to take the 17-point package for the 2 of them, I don't think you ever would.
Yeah.
But
there's a build there if you want it. If not, whatever. Probably not worth it because he's not really going to get much out of haphazard topography in EVS, but
yeah. I think that haphazard topography is the thing that I usually hire him for.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece of tech on his card.
And that's kind of like still his thing. And study is actually really good as well.
Sure.
It's solid. Yeah.
Yeah. The nice thing is it's not the only bonus action he has now. So when it's not relevant, he has another option.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
So,
well, I think that means that I'll be running Society at the next Captain Con, because like clearly that's the keyword to beat now.
Clearly.
Broken as fuck.
Clearly.
So next up, we have the Guild with Sonya Creed. I say this, Sonya OP, please nerf, because
Oh no,
holy hell, this model. So I'm going to shut my mouth and I'm going to listen to what you guys have to say, and then we'll see if I'm in agreement with you.
So
Roman, you want to tell us about your villain arc?
Yep, I've officially started my villain arc the week that this errata dropped. I've been saying for a while, I should really I have like 4 guild keywords somehow. Let me like actually learn how to play them. She's one of them, because despite being horrible, she's a fire mage, and I can't say no to those very easily.
Ironically, the day that this errata dropped, one of my friends who doesn't play guild anymore messaged me and said, "Hey, do you want to buy this whole Witch Hunter keyword for $20 and half the models are painted and it's all assembled?" And I was like, "Sure." And then I looked at the weird news and said, "Oh, okay." So I'm going to let you guys take it away in a sec. We're just going to go over briefly what the changes were. One of them was Sonya went from measly defense 4 to a defense 6 with a built-in tome for her ignite trigger to after resolving the attacking model gains burning 1.
As any Karis player will tell you, that is solid.
It's pretty solid. Yeah. Her willpower dropped from 7 to 5, which is kind of in keeping with the fluff, because this is like the crazy version of Sonya that is like tormented by a tyrant. So that tracks. Her move also went from 4 to 5, which is great because move 4 is the pits. She lost Counterspell, which is kind of funny because I think that's actually like a keyword ability for the rest of the Witch Hunters.
Kind of.
Which is kind of
weird.
Half.
Like half of them have it, and Counterspell's not really great an ability. She lost the Seeking Flames ability and gained Pyrotechnics, and I am very sad because I really wanted Wong 2 to be the only model in the game with Pyrotechnics.
Yeah.
The way that works is when you drop a blast marker with this model, it can be dropped anywhere within 2 inches of the target or another blast marker generated.
It's okay,
by this action.
She can have it back.
Yeah, she
was the first one with it in 2E. She got it back. Okay, that's fair. Whatever. Smothering Flames got replaced with Arcane Reservoir. Smothering Flames was the thing where a model would reduce its range by the value of its burning condition, which was like not super irrelevant until all of a sudden you had 8 burning and your range went to 0.
Yeah, it's a lot of stupid tracking. That
felt real bad.
Yeah.
It was a lot of tracking.
It was very sludgy.
And then this is the first time I have ever seen this on a changelog. All actions completely reworked.
Yeah, this is an entirely different pack of card.
Yep.
So, Roman, since you started us off, why don't you give us a brief overview of how all of her freaking 6 or 5 or 6 actions on the back of her card were reworked?
So, as an overview, she went from, "Hi, I'm the original blaster, and my title is kind of that, but not really, but does it slightly differently. We're different, I swear, I promise." She has now changed and gone, "Well, I can also be a melee tank, kind of, if I want to." Because now she has a 2-inch melee with a 6 versus defense with a built-in ram. It does 2-3 blasts. She can still place them pyrotechnics-wise, even in melee. 5 blast damage. And it can have 1 friendly model within 4 of the target heal 1. So she took her runic blade that she had previously and said, "I can tweak this to be better. I can make it bigger. I can rebuild it. I have the technology." So she can, and I've played her a couple times in the last week or so, and I've used that decently well just to be like, all right, I am holding a bunch of people at 2 inches and blasting on a bunch of you. She does still have a nice ranged attack. Sapping Flames.
Important note.
Yes. Yes. The
built-in trigger, Scorch the Soul on a ram. Built-in trigger.
Yep.
Enemy only after killing. No burning condition required, folks. Summon a Witchling Stalker with slow into base contact with the target.
Yep. She
shrank. People will finally be able to put their Stalker models on the table, because no one has ever put plastic on table if it's a Stalker model.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, she still summons, and you're never going to summon a Witchling Stalker with her with that action. So Take it away, Roman.
So yeah, having that is nice. Sapping Flames is her range now. 12 inches, 6 versus willpower. 1 blast, 1 double blast, 3 double blast damage, which doesn't sound like a ton, except A, models damaged by this action gain burning 3.
3!
And I wish they would have put this in the opposite order just so it would have made more readable sense. Damage from this action ignores shielded and incorporeal. So if you were hoping that min and moderate damage 1 suddenly makes you go, oh, I'm not going to get it, tough. You're getting it.
Yeah, you're getting it.
This also has a drain magic trigger and a draw out secrets trigger. So they're good triggers. Finally, like, Guild has some other ways to drop scheme markers at ranged. I didn't realize that was legal, but apparently when Lucius came in and rewrote a bunch of the legal code, he said that's fine now. Then we get to
I think a big thing to mention too is with sorry to interrupt, but the Sapping Flames does not have a gun icon like her original one did. So the way that they were able to get rid of that very important front of card ability to ignore when you were dealing with witchlings and she could ignore it for cover or for friendly fire is that it doesn't matter anymore.
Just make it a non-issue.
Cover does not matter. Engagement does not matter. She just has, and like it did drop the range by 2 and the damage obviously by a little bit, kind of. I mean, if you don't include all the extra burning. But yeah, I was like, oh, this is dumb. Nobody wants to take a blasting master that no longer ignores and she ignores everything. Never mind.
Yep. Let's leave Magical Inquisition for last, Roman. Let's see the other ones first.
I had the same thought. So her second tactical action is Arcane Infusion. Needs a 4 to go off. It is a 12-inch range. Again, all of her range stuff on the back of her card is 12 inches. So you don't have to wonder, oh, what range am I worrying about? Friendly Witch Hunter only, target gains fast. So now we have her doing some crew support, which is nice. And with that, not built in, but she's a master. For a tome, once per activation, end the burning condition on your target Witch Hunter, draw 2 cards. So now every time you have the Purifying Flame, her totem, a little too close to somebody and you light it on fire, oh no, might as well make it fast, not let them get burnt at the end of the turn and draw cards off of it. Like, not the worst thing you can do. She also, for a ram, on that fast model, until the end phase, enemy models treat the area within aura 1 of the target as hazardous, burning 2. Which I don't think by itself is too much. I honestly really like that, since burning, like, say, a hazardous poison, is not the same as hazardous actually take damage. It kind of builds up over time.
Usually those hazardous auras are usually 1 though, like all the poison auras and stuff. I like that she puts out so much fire. It's like, not only are you getting it, you're getting it in stacks.
Yeah.
You know what's really cool? When you take Director Rodriguez, arguably one of the best new models in Guild, and now you make him fast and give him a hazardous burning 2 aura around him. Seems legit.
Yeah, he's legit. Pretty gross.
Hot Rod is really hot now.
Whew. Yeah. Meanwhile, Sam Hopkins is still hanging out in the break room.
I think Sam Hopkins is great, but that's just me. Anyway.
Her bonus action. This, I think, is my favorite thing on her card. One of the big reasons I kept looking at Guild for forever and going, no, in addition to, don't like them, is they didn't have any movement tricks. Suddenly, Sonya gets a 4-inch pulse that needs a 4 to go off to push herself and 2 other friendly Witch Hunter models in range up to 4 inches in any direction. Like, this is great. I love it. Yeah. So, already a solid back of card, and then we add on the other 12-inch range tactical action, Magical Inquisition. Once per turn, enemy only, end the target's burning condition. Name a Witch Hunter minion. The target number of this is the cost of the named model plus 4 tomes. Summon the named model with slow within aura 3 of this model. So the narrative way I look at this is she's pointing at someone who has burning on them, making the fire jump off of them as like a flare to say, I need backup, which narratively I fucking love. So yeah, in my couple games experience with her in quick succession here was essentially turn 1, she goes middle of the turn so that enough targets have come forward where she can get them after advance ordering up. She's sapping flames some things. Hopefully you've gotten something else to put Burning One out on something to summon whatever you got the card for in hand. And start just rolling forward like the guild wants to do anyway. And again, you're if you have the extra action in there, yeah, you make D-Rod fast.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, guys. So here's the thing. So previously, Sonya could really only summon Witchling Thralls and Witchling Stalkers. That was just the only things that she could get using her card. Now it's any Witch Hunter minion. And if there's one thing that kind of ties all of the Witch Hunter minions together, it's that they all have really powerful abilities, like one really powerful ability, but they're always like just a little bit too expensive to justify hiring.
Yep.
The balance between what they do on the table and their cost, not that great. Also, the really, really, really critical ones, like, say, Thalarian Quellers, for instance, you know that they're bad news and you kill them before they get next to you. You can't do that anymore.
Yep.
You just can't do that anymore. Did I also mention that in a pinch, she can summon a witchling with slow next to her? Or not a witchling. She can summon a witch hunter with slow next to her and then just get rid of the slow by giving it fast and then also drawing some cards and giving it a hazardous burning aura. So that's pretty cool. Have you guys ever looked at some of the witchling or the witch hunter minions that she can summon?
Yeah. There's a lot of them that are cost 7.
Yeah. Have you ever wondered what it would be like if you could summon, say, Hexpos?
Don't even say those words. Those are the most overtuned models.
Or Thalarian Quellers. You know, those things that you don't really see super often, but they have a front of card 6-inch aura. Models within Aura 6, when they use a Soulstone, must discard a card or the effect of the Soulstone is ignored.
Yep.
That's why you kill them as soon as you see them. But now she can just summon them.
Even just summoning in a handler seems pretty all right.
Oh, and by the way, on the back of the Thalarian Quellers card, they have an ability called Anti-Magic Field. If the target is a Witch Hunter, this gets the suit that it needs built in. Until the end phase, enemy models cannot declare triggers and oppose duels with the target model. Right. So there's a lot of stuff that she can summon, and we don't need to go through the whole list, but Thalarian Quellers are a pretty big deal. Sanctioned Spellcasters, maybe not so much. Ashbringers, Hexpos, ugh. And then there's the one that I forgot existed, and that's the Spell Eater. Think about summoned Spell Eater.
Oh, no!
Right. Right.
I forgot about them, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying. I love it.
I will say this, when I was, the games I've played with her, initially I was like, the first game I had, it's like, oh, I have a 12 of tomes. I'm going to summon a Thrall because I have angry things coming towards me, and an extra Thrall would be great just as a blocker. That did work pretty well, but I found in the following turn, like, oh, I have an 11. I have too many options on what I can summon with 11. This is great.
Yeah, here's the deal. Thralls are good. I don't really think that you ever need to summon a Thrall unless it's like you need a bodyguard for Sonya to block something that's charging in on her. Because Thralls, like, they punch stuff, and that's cool, but there's a lot of stuff in the keyword that can punch stuff. And that was part of the problem, is that you could summon models that were very punchy in a keyword that was full of very punchy models. Now you have a keyword full of very punchy models, and then you can summon in the tech. Or Hexpos.
Yep.
Or Hexpos.
So
or just Hexpos.
Yeah, and the reason I summoned the Thrall the one turn was because I needed a blocker for a Hexpo.
Right.
Well, Spell Eaters fuel the fire too, quite literally. Because they have the aura that if you discard a card, you can gain burning. And so if you summon one of them off of one burning turn 1 and they're just standing there, anytime your opponent discards a card, you can now summon off them because they got that one burning.
Oh.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
What I do like as a tax, though, is anybody who wants to play Sonya now has to go out and buy 3 times the burning tokens they've been using. Because this piles of 3 and 2 at a time. Someone charges in, dashes, does something, you're like, here's 6 burning. It's like, oh, I haven't attacked you. That's on your turn. Now I'm going to attack you. Here's 9 more burning. Like,
yeah. You know what's really cool? Summoning like halfway through the game when there's a big pig pile going on in the middle is a spell leader that with its bonus action can just pulse out unresisted damage and burning on a whole pile of models. It's great.
Yep.
So Sonya OP, please nerf.
Yeah, we've had enough of her.
Seriousness,
So much the full week.
I don't actually know if she's OP. She seems very
She looks rock solid.
Strong to me.
Yeah, what I would say is, and admittedly, this is only with like 2 games of her, but like she was solid. She was not busted. Because you have to figure out like, okay, when do I switch gears from throwing out a little bit of damage with a bunch of burning to, oh, I need to actually like get in there and do damage, or am I damaging, or am I doing more crew support? So it's going to be a learning process still. Also, as far as the burning tokens, just show up with a cube of D6s and just put them on the side of the table.
Just dice.
And just be like,
red dice.
Just put those on your models, please, dear opponent.
See,
also
now,
put them on your cards, not your models, because we're not going to remember who's who.
I always like messing around with, like, for fun games, doing whiz-bang games with a lot of exploding pigs. And now realizing the amount of stalkers that she can produce in a turn, and like have them just demise, explode, and burning, and just be like, "Why were you coming close to me? Because I'm throwing explosions at you." Oh, and the things that you're engaged with, if you kill them, they explode, and also explosions. Are you in the mood for explosions? We've got explosions.
Yeah,
explosions.
And one kind of cute thing is, in the unlikely event that she actually manages to get into melee and kill multiple models in the same turn, her ram trigger is not once per turn. So yeah, you can summon a lot of summons.
I'm picturing taking Sonya now into a game against Big Cat. It's like, how many gremlins did you have? Good.
So can you imagine playing Sonya into like Hamlin and just turning all those rats into Witchling Stalkers? Like, you'll have 3 Witchling Stalkers summoned all the time, just trivially, just because, like, sure.
How would you not? Yeah. So anyway,
the rest of the stuff should go pretty quick. I think we went through most of the models that had a lot to chew on. Neverborn Killjoy is, I think, way better than he was.
I love Jumpy Killjoy.
Yes, I have never played Killjoy before. I have never played against Killjoy in this edition, and I'm happy that he's not 2E Killjoy, because that dude was an asshole. But new Killjoy, he got +1 defense. His demise changed, so he doesn't put out like the weird little upgrades on stuff and then pop out next to them when he dies. Basically now it's just once per game. After he's killed, it heals 4 and is placed into base contact with an enemy non-leader within Aura 6. So I guess if you can kill him and make sure that you don't have any enemy models within 6, he just dies, but like that's probably kind of hard to engineer.
If he's not within 6 inches of an enemy, you're playing him wrong.
Yeah. His Barbed and Brambles ability got reworked and moved onto the back of his card as a trigger, which we'll get to in a sec. He gained Unimpeded, which is pretty great because a big 50 mil model without Unimpeded
in
could
Fae
easily get bogged down in Fae with a bunch of severe terrain everywhere. Not awesome. He lost Hard to Wound and got Made to Kill instead, which is cool.
The most important ability on this card.
Now he like places all over the place. He's going to get Made to Kill attacks all the time, which is great. He does not use Blood Sacrifice upgrade, so Blood Price went away. His Massive Cleaver action changed pretty significantly, so now basically it is a 1-inch range, which still doesn't seem very massive to me, but whatever.
Still smaller than Dashiell's regular cleaver.
Yeah, go figure.
How big is your cleaver, Jesse? Jeez.
Yeah. So range 1,
at least
stat
2
6 on defense. If he's within Aura 1 of an underbrush marker, he just gets a built-in plus flip, which is pretty great. And then it's 3/3/6, and it has Drink Blood. And good lord, thankfully, this guy is not a henchman, because built-in Drink Blood on that would be bananas. And you get knock aside. So there you go. He got Rosewood Chains, which got kind of it used to be Hook Chain. Now it got reworked pretty significantly. It is a 8-inch range, stat 5 on defense, ignores concealment, 2/3/4 damage, push the target 3 inches towards this model or an underbrush marker in line of sight, and it has daze, and importantly, on your heels. Not that you're necessarily going to want to be hitting your friendlies with this, because it is a min 2, but like you can get you can't on your heels on enemies.
On your heels
only on your heels on enemies. I always forget about that.
But
and then he
don't
has
get
Bloody
on your
Gate,
heels.
which lets him basically teleport to underbrush markers within range 6. And until the end phase, enemy models can treat the area within Aura 1 of this model as hazardous if he hits a ram. So now he jumps all over the place. He smashes stuff with Made to Kill. Pretty good model. I like him.
Yeah, I actually can't wait to see this on the table, because it actually looks like a really fun kit.
I think he will do most of what you need a Malifaux Rex to do at a slight discount, which is pretty cool. I still don't think you're going to be hiring both of them, and they're still kind of in competition with each other, which was always sort of the issue with Faye. But I think he's a lot better than he used to be, and I'm excited to see him on the table, because I think he's a lot more usable now.
Absolutely.
I think the 10 cost is always a little bit of a struggle for Faye. Like, I think he's going to do work, and you won't regret having him. But I think he's quite easily, I still think something where you're like, oh, but I wanted another knight, or I needed this. Like, it's kind of an expensive keyword.
It is.
Ignoring concealment on the Rosewood Chains is a big deal, because especially if you're taking the Mysterious Emissary, which you pretty much are with Faye, the amount of concealment that you're putting out all over the map, this guy, if he couldn't get through it. And in a weird way, even with the Severe 6, I think because he's a 3/3 and gets a plus to hit when he's near underbrush markers, I think he's one of those beaters you don't fuel with focus or
he's just trying to hit. If he hits a 6, hooray! But
I think he's just a blender that jumps around and spinning top of like a big cleaver and just tries to do a lot of 3 damages, which is kind of nice, because usually when you take your big 10-stone beater, you got to take a 5-stone whatever it is to also help fuel it up. And I think he kind of can go off on his own and doesn't need much support, especially because he can, quote unquote, heal himself. I mean, you got to make sure you can get the kills with Eat Your Fill or Drink Blood, because as you said, he's not a henchman. Even with the demise, I think if people get on him, even with the defense 5, willpower 5, like, I think if he's off by his lonesome, he can get ganged up on. But thankfully, he's got a bunch of ways to bounce all over the place. So if he's like a little gummy bear. If he decided no, he's going to bounce somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think one important thing is that, because the first way that he's usually going to teleport in an activation is using Bloody Gate, which is going to put him in base contact with an underbrush marker. Like, he's probably going to have that plus flip on his attacks like 90% of the time. It's just going to happen all the time. One thing I wish, and I don't really know how relevant it is, because like, are you really going to hire this guy out of keyword? It'd be cool if he had some way to drop an underbrush marker himself, because basically without that ability, you're just never going to hire him out of keyword, because he really needs the underbrush markers to function. I don't really know that actually matters, because there's plenty of out of keyword and versatile options, and like, not every model has to work outside of its keyword, so whatever. I think that his biggest issue is that he still is suffering from a lot of hiring pressure in a very full keyword, especially now that Ithana exists. And I think Ithana is just like auto take every time you run Faye forever and always, because she fixes the problems with the keyword.
Yeah, she's
such an auto include. I was playing the weird tree in a Zoraida list, and 2 turns in, my opponent's like, "What are you doing? Germinate's not a bonus action." I'm like, "Yes, it is."
Oh no,
like, no, it isn't. I'm like, oh no, I need the auto include model to make it that, and I'm like, well, I've been cheating. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, so long story short, like, he's good, he's cool, he's a lot more usable. I don't actually know that he's going to see the table that much more often, which is a bummer, because that Silent Knight model is fucking
I think it's
awesome.
more often than it was.
More often than it was,
because the last, all he really did was kind of gimmicky, and I think people were past the gimmick of what he used to do.
Speaking of
I
gimmicky
think now
models,
he does things.
Let's talk about a gimmicky model.
I'm so excited about this gimmick.
Ashura Rotten. So Ashura Rotten, it's funny because if you look at the developers notes, they basically said that we made Ezekiel, he's really good, nobody takes Ashura Rotten anymore, and she already wasn't that good, so we had to fix her so that she's actually usable. And now I can see taking Ashura Rotten and Ezekiel in the same keyword, maybe with some Dapperlings and the Reser starter box model, and then Old Hob, and there's your crew. Anyway, so she gained the zombie keyword, which is super weird that she didn't have it in the first place. I don't think I actually realized that.
Yeah, she had no keyword.
Did she? Was she just versatile?
I think she was just.
She got it when hired, didn't she?
Yeah, she had some.
She had a rule that
rules.
said she got
Something
it
like that. I think that she could treat. I think that she could treat models with the zombie keyword as like how it works. Like
this model when hiring this model is treated as having the zombie keyword, which is like whatever. Okay.
So her necromantic font and her Rottenburg residence both got Rottenburg residence got reworked into a trigger. Necromantic font got removed. She lost accomplice and gained siphon power, which is amazing. Accomplice was like fine, but siphon power is really, 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 really good, especially in a keyword full of just junk zombies that you can just siphon health off of without really feeling bad about it. Pretty great. Then she gained some new stuff. So she got an ability called Grave Dynamo, which is other friendly zombies within Aura 6 get a plus flip to their actions. So not just mindless zombies, anything that is a zombie. So that
and Madam Sybil's a zombie.
Madam Sybil.
Projectile vomit.
Yeah.
You
so they'll automatically get plus flips, which is pretty great. And then if she's the crew's leader, the model limit for mindless zombies is increased to 10.
It's so good.
It's so good. So now what that means is that you can use the original 5 mindless zombies and you can use Ezekiel's 5 mindless zombies.
Goddamn right.
Because you're certainly taking Ezekiel every single time that you take a Shura Rotten. Yeah. Pretty funny. She still has decay, which is fantastic. That's still just like a super generally good ability, but she did lose Tear Apart, so she doesn't actually have a melee attack anymore, which is a little weird.
Fine.
But there's enough mindless zombies around that who cares?
Right.
Yeah, she shouldn't be in the front lines anyway.
Right. She did gain Siphon Life on her decay, which is kind of awesome because now she's a min 3 that also heals herself for 1 and puts injured on the target. So that's pretty good. And now she has the Return of the Dead action instead of Zombie Apocalypse. So Return of the Dead is just needs a 4 of crows and get a mindless zombie within 8 inches. She got a couple other things that let you move around mindless zombies with one of her bonus actions. And then when resolving the generated move actions, they can benefit from pack mentality and ignore their insignificant ability. Because they're moving 3 inches and taking an action. And that is friendly mindless zombies with an S. Like the 10 of them.
You could generate 10 charges for one bonus action.
Yes. And it's a 6-inch
and
pulse.
they all benefit from pack mentality.
Right.
And Grave Dynamo.
And Grave Dynamo.
Right.
Hilarious.
I really want to see now my bonus action does all the work for me face off of Asura versus Hamlin.
So, yeah. So weird. I thought we were trying to find ways to speed the game up. This is the opposite of that.
Every time you have the dead rider and you go, I could just summon a bunch of zombies to get actions, but I'm on a clock at this tournament and I don't think I'm going to do it. Now you're like, how about if I did that 10 times as much?
Right.
Oh, it's so good.
Just to stack on top of that, she also gained Study, which she didn't have before. Study is a great action. But on the Study action, she has a tome trigger called Ritual of Empowerment. So until the end phase, friendly models within Aura 4 of the dropped marker, the scheme marker that you drop, receive a positive flip to all non-melee and non-ranged actions. So just positive flips on all that other crazy stuff that some of the students can do. Like,
bare minimum, she's a friendly model to herself, so she gets a positive to decay.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And can I just say, 3, 6. I'm running out of fingers. How many projectile vomit attacks can you get from 3 flesh constructs within range getting double positives on their pukes?
Gross.
The students are not zombies, Jesse.
Oh, they're not?
Just for your edification. No. Flesh constructs, dead doxies, rabble risers, rotten bells, guild autopsies, dead dandies, mindless zombies. Zombie Chihuahua's not. Oh no, he is the zombie Chihuahua for some reason. Madam Sybil, and Mortimer when hiring for necromantic fonts. So.
I mean, guild autopsies suddenly become useful when you have a table filled with corpse markers.
Hey,
like they
guild
can't
autopsies
not generate...
are great in McMorning 2 when you can generate like 8 soul stones by turn 2. It's amazing.
Well, they basically can do that now because you're bringing all your own corpse markers.
You can do
anyway.
it with Asura now too. It's great.
Yeah. So like I think that this model is like a meme model that actually works.
Yeah,
on the table.
You can play it to the meme
actions.
Yeah, you can play it to the meme, or you can play to like an actual like effective level with this model. I think for 8 stones.
I think it's definitely workable. And Ashura Rotten hired, even not as the leader, into a couple of other keywords. I think can actually work now.
Yeah,
I wish they split up her Grave Dynamo so that like as long as you have her, you can have 10 mindless zombies. But if she's the leader, you get the positives to their actions. Just because, like, if you hire her just as an 8-stone model, I'd love there to be a good reason to plug her into some crews. And, like, if she could just start, like, really rapid firing the zombies out into any crew, I think that's a lot of fun.
I mean, I feel like hiring her into, like, McMorning, where a lot of those zombie models are experimental models, flesh constructs, guild autopsies, stuff like that.
Yeah, Red Chapel, too.
Or Red Chapel, Dead Dandies, Bells, Doxies, like I think, and Sybil. So yeah, like hiring her into a Seamus crew gives you a different avenue of play with those models, and I think that's pretty cool, actually.
Yep, and so one pretty cute thing with Ashura, which I think is probably going to be an auto include every time that you take her, especially as a leader, is Anna Lovelace, because Anna Lovelace has remote detonation.
Yep,
and can blow up the corpses, or can blow up the many mindless zombies that you hire, and do TN13 move duels with 3 damage and injured and draw a card, because why not?
And Zeke can do the botched ritual on his trigger if he fails his spiritual guardians or whatever.
Yep,
so
it's good stuff.
You can make little zombie mines. I love it.
Yep, exploding corpses everywhere. So then we move on to Riva Cortinus Luminary. And I just have to say, of all of the games of M3E that I have played, I think playing against Riva 2 was the least fun that I have ever had playing Malifaux. She was absolutely... It was just drudgery to play against her. It was not fun. She constantly interrupted your activations. You felt like she was unapproachable because of the defensive tech that she had. I know that some Riva 2 players are saying the sky is falling. I do recognize that this is a pretty significant hit, but I think that she's going to be a lot more fun, and the games are going to move a lot more quickly, because boy, oh boy, did she slow games down like crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that changed on this card, and we don't necessarily need to go through all of it, but the most important stuff is that Enkindle the Cult got removed. That was the ability that when she suffered damage, she could just like kill another friendly model to reduce the damage to 0. And this is in a crew that has like shield bearers that had take the hit, that could give out shielded like crazy and reduce damage like crazy. And had pyre markers, literally more pyre markers than I've ever seen markers of any type ever in the game, all around her. So she was kind of just unassailable. Like you just couldn't really do anything about it. So she got changed. Her health went up by 1 to 12. Her defense went up by 1 to 6. She gained fireproof so that she's not going to set herself on fire with her own pyre markers anymore. And she lost Enkindle the Cult so that she can't just pawn off those attacks. There are a number of other things that happened on her card, but without going into every single one of them, essentially most of the changes that were made seem to have been made to improve the quality of life for the person opposing Riva. Because like I was saying before, Riva 2 might be the least fun that I've ever had playing into something in my entire Malifaux career. So any high level thoughts from y'all?
Just that, like, I have loved Riva. She's actually what got me into Rezzers in back when she first launched. I think it was about the time I got into Malifaux, actually. And I just loved this, like, you know, lovely nun who like pats all the zombies on the head. And they're so happy to like please her and stuff. The old school way she used to play, which, you know, just the zombies running all over the board and she attacked through. Like they always kept part of that. With the title system, it's always like, oh no, she's burning everything, and it made me worried she's burning her little pet zombies. But long story short, I have a love for the keyword, and I don't play it nearly enough because 2 was just so strong that I kept trying to make it work. And my games at my game store never made it past turn 3 because so many things happened. And I was talking to Doug at Captain Con and saying how part of the problem too is that I don't want to lift people's models to put pyre markers under it. And with Riva, that happens about 13 to 15 times a turn. And touching models and lifting models and placing them down, and then all of a sudden, no, I'm no longer in engagement. Like, I'll play her all day long on battles.
Yeah.
But the amount of pyre markers you have to place under models with her slows the game down so much. And like you said, your opponent in mid-excitement of I charge in with this model and I attack, it's like, okay, cool, well, I kill this, I drop this, I move you, I push you, I do this, you gain this. And it's like, oh wait, was it my turn or yours? Because I just did 5 actions. Like,
right.
She was a Rube Goldberg machine in one model.
Mm-hmm.
I think like I just looked at her old card in comparison, and like nothing on the back of her card really changed. The one thing that jumps out is her Lampad summoning, which is actually better now because it's just consistently you have 4 health, not you have health equal to the burning that was reduced to kill the thing. So that's honestly better. That's a offensive scheme ability boost right there. You hit the nail on the head, Jesse. Like she just doesn't. She now has a way to approach her to actually play the game.
Right. And she's still a 6/6 defense willpower. Like,
yeah, she's not gonna be a pushover.
And you still have shield bearers. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say her keywords like and her box minion, which is supposed to be the ones that follow her. You never really had to take because with 2, you're like, I'll kill something else. Don't worry, you're never gonna hit me.
She's got plenty of layered defense. I think she looks fine.
Yeah, and like some of the really key stuff on the back of her card, she still has. Like her bonus action, Lantern's Light, which is like a super powerful bonus action, still has the Luminary's Chosen trigger, which lets other Revenant models within Aura 4 just get +1 damage on their actions. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
Especially with Vincent, who Vincent is a absolute terror anyway. Like that, I don't know how that model flies under the radar. I mean, he's not like crazy broken. I think he just gets edged out by all the other crazy out of keyword and versatile hires that Rezzers have. But I never want to see Vincent on the table. He is a nightmare. Absolute
especially
nightmare.
With
now with +1 damage.
Luminary. Yeah, especially with the Luminary.
The other thing I'm really glad to see gone is that they changed her Vision of Fire, because it used to be every time someone gains burning, she gets to choose if it's heal or a ping of damage, which was just, here's a bunch of non-ignorable, you have no chance to get away from this damage because she's going to move a pyre under you and you take damage as 6 other things happen. Now she still has it, but it's more in theme for her of, I get to heal my own guys one. Perfect.
Here's the pat on the zombie head.
Exactly.
And actually, so she used to have the Pyre Bloom trigger on a mask to drop a pyre marker in base contact with the target on her melee attack, which was kind of dumb because like you didn't want her to be in melee anyway. And it's like, cool, you can drop pyre markers underneath, but that's not where you want her to be. Now she actually has the Pyre Bloom trigger on her bonus action, which is pretty amazing. So being able to drop a pyre marker in base contact with the target from an 8-inch range plus the other stuff that bonus action does is pretty darn good, to be honest.
I think the
overall decision point is you're either doing that or Luminary's Chosen, which is another really good trigger.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think the overall ping damage of the crew, like I think you're going to notice a big difference in how killy the crew is going to be compared to how it was. Like that was all those pings of damage really add up. But I think it's going to be as tanky as it was. And like you said, I think Riva can do stuff a little bit further away. So I think it'll be in an okay spot. It's definitely not what it was, but
no. And like I think that before the move was to hire like a shield bearer or maybe even like 2 shield bearers. And then you just start shield slamming enemy models all over the place through pyres, and then that causes burning to stack up, and then it does the healing and it does the damage, and like it still kind of does like half of that, but there's, I think, more ways to play the keyword really effectively now, which is okay by me.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there's probably some Riva fans out there that are screaming at their phones right now, telling us that we're wrong in every way.
Time to bring Riva.
We can't hear them, so we're right.
Yeah, we can't hear them. That's right.
Time to bring Riva 1 out again. Start blasting off of those.
I still think Riva 1 is pretty flippin' good.
Yeah, she's good. Like,
yeah,
I think people just forget it because Seamus exists in faction.
Yeah, so
Riva 1 is incredible.
Yeah, that'll do it with the Rezzers. We are on to the 10 Thunders, which saw one model get changed, and boy, oh boy, did this model get changed.
Wacky.
So 10 Thunders have had Yasunori adjusted again. Original Yasunori in M3E was utterly ridiculous and then got nerfed to the point that you'll never ever see it on the table ever again. And I think I'll take this model now. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I will.
Decent.
Yeah. So this model changed a lot.
Entirely.
Rather than talking about what it lost, I think that the better thing to do is just to talk about where it is, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
We just need to ignore the previous version, because no one knows what it did anyways. And we'll just talk about this new 10-stone Yasunori model.
Right. So when you look at this 10-stone Yasunori model, you're like, wow, this model's 10 stones, and it has like less text than most minions. It is, there's not a lot going on here. It is still 10 cost. It is 10 wounds. It is 7 defense, 6 willpower, 7 move, 3 size, has flight, and it has an ability called Flow of Battle. At the start of this model's activation, discard all battle plan upgrades attached to it. Then this model may attach a battle plan upgrade. Doesn't have to be a different one. Very important note. It has a sword, 1-inch range, stat 6 on defense, balance sword. Same sword as many other models, actually. You'd think that it would have more of like an Asian-y themed sword, but no, I guess not. 245 has 4 triggers, 1 on every suit. Thank you very much. Duality. This model must choose both players draw a card or both players discard a card. Kind of weird. Quick reflexes.
I think that's kind of to reference the model we're not talking about, which is the previous Yasunori.
Right. Quick reflexes on a mask. Take this action again, targeting a different model, not onslaught like the original Yasunori had. Yeah, that's good. Daze, which is great, and then Thunderous Blow, which is a phenomenal trigger, which is only on a very few models, naming Leototo. It's pretty awesome. Enemy models within Pulse 2 of this model must each pass a TN13 move duel or gain slow. Gross. It has a bonus action that does not require a flip, that just is move this model and other models within a 3-inch pulse up to 1 inch. So that sounds like a bad card model, for 10 stones, right, guys?
That's terrible, awful. Why'd they re-nerf it?
So now it has 2 upgrades, however, called Carnage and Composure, and these are the ones that every time it activates, you get to flip between them or just select the same one again. Carnage. A worthy get the model gains a front of card ability, a worthy foe. This model's melee actions deal +1 damage. So that 245 turns into a 356, which is a lot different.
Yep.
And then it gains a bonus action that needs a 5 to go off. Enemy only. Place this model into base contact with the target. Then this model may take a melee action. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Come to find out.
That's pretty all right.
Yeah, so now if you take Carnage, this model gets a free place within 6 inches. It is resisted, importantly. Your opponent can cheat out of it.
It is an attack
but if
action.
they don't, they're going to be taking 3 3-5-6 attacks, which is pretty brutal.
Yep.
Then the other one is Composure. This model gains a front of card ability called Blade Wall. Reduce all damage suffered by this model by +1. Great. Armor, but not armor. We love armor, not armor abilities.
Yep.
And then it has a bonus action, Isolating Wind, 4-inch aura, needs a 6 to go off. Until the end phase, enemy models treat the area within range as concealing terrain and cannot be placed within range.
Gravity well.
Can we get that on the captain, please and thank you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that'd be so good on the captain.
Did it hurt your heart a little bit when you saw that ability, Roman?
Absolutely. And I'm like, it's even wind themed. Come on.
Yep.
Jeff Dice is probably losing his mind.
Right and now. It has triggers. It has good triggers.
Yeah, this still has triggers. So the triggers are on a mask, vanish, place this model anywhere within range, which is 4, and he's a 50 mil model, so that's pretty amazing. And bolster strength, friendly models within 4-inch range off your 50 mil base. Just heal 1. Pretty great.
Especially with this upgrade, I feel like this has a place in Misaki.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's an aura, so he's healing himself. Like,
but just that is a huge concealing aura.
Yep.
Hello, Shadow Pins.
This is a really excellent 10-stone versatile model.
I think they learned a lot of lessons with the Sidgusy sisters.
Yes.
Right.
And they applied it to Yasunori.
It works in every crew. There are some crews that it might work in a little bit better than others, but I don't really have any beefs with this model. And you know what? I'll be honest, I can definitely see myself taking it because a really, really fast, independent, and hard-hitting model is you look at Thunders and you're like, well, they've got a lot of hard-hitting models. Yeah. They've got a lot of fast models. Yeah. They don't really have that many fast and hard-hitting models. Like you kind of are choosing one or the other because you've got stuff like, what's his face there? Gatling gun guy whose name I've fight him 1,000 times. I can't remember.
He's not going anywhere. He's like in one area taking shots, which is good, but
and like the problem is that his shots aren't like super reliable, but like you can get them from far away, so that's fine. Or you've got stuff like Sun Wukong, who is like super fast, but doesn't really deal that much damage.
Hit that hard.
I think that kind of the switch hitter can be Desper LaRoe because like he can do a respectable amount of damage, and he's super fast, but he's very resource intensive. If you want to make him do damage, he's kind of like he's kind of like the first mate of Thunders. Like they kind of fill similar roles and number of stones that you need to dump into him.
Yeah.
This guy doesn't need you to dump any stones into him.
He can't take stones.
Can't take stones. He's pretty reliable. He's very independent, and
seems very solid.
I dig
it. When I first saw the card, like the back of the card, I'm like, oh, they gave him bad juju. Because what does it do? An attack action and another bonus action. And then I was like, oh wait, there's upgrades attached to this. I'm like, oh okay, this is a bit better.
No, I had a local when we posted this. He's like, oh man, they really nerfed Yasunori. I'm like, dude, did you not look at the battle plan upgrades? That is literally the most important part of this change, is the battle plans.
I think what I like about him.
Oh no.
I think what I like about him, and I think it's I wouldn't even say a weakness, but a consideration is guy with sword stab good. I don't think he's very flexible in how he's going to do his job, but he has a job. Like it's kind of the one job. You're sending him to murder things. He's gonna kill stuff. Mm-hmm. He's got the movement and the shenanigans to get around to where he wants to, but he's not gonna all of a sudden start scheming up a storm. Like he's not really that super flexible for that, which is fine because that's exactly like it's a guy on a dragon horse with 2 swords, literally saying, "Get me closer. I want to stab them with my swords."
Yeah. What do you want this model to do?
And that sometimes what I like about Malifaux, sometimes you get the fairly more rounded. Like I'd say McTavish is pretty more rounded at being like he can like switch gears, but he does not have the hitting power that Yasunori does, and he doesn't have the guarantee. Like if you pick a target that's not crazy hard to kill and you send this guy at him, Yasunori will get him. Like it's like, okay, I've got this.
Yeah, and I don't really know that like the mini gravity well is going to be that impactful because a 4-inch aura is like it's okay, but it's not that
significant.
Big.
I think the fact that it gives concealing and the no place aura, like the fact that it does both of those,
is good.
What might be what might be good with that is if you're sending him up a flank to go towards like a corner where schemers that rely on leaps is if you're going schemer like silhouette hunting and they want to start jumping around, you'd be like, no, you don't. You're gonna stay exactly where you are. and I'm going to continue to hit you.
Yeah. Yep. One thing I will say is that since Thunders evidently have a hazardous terrain themed crew with the new Oni, all of a sudden that Wind's Wrath ability, which was previously like not that great, suddenly pretty amazing because it's a 3-inch pulse off of a 50 for unresisted move ones, and that crew can actually stack multiple different types of hazardous on top of each other, sometimes up to 3 types. So like, okay.
And if worse comes to worse and you're stuck in a 2-inch melee and you've only got 1, you can use your bonus action and get in there. You don't have to have any wasted action.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ways to utilize that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm digging them. I like it, and I want to call out one other thing.
Yeah.
This is yet another 10-stone versatile model in Thunders. That is a deep bench that is models are fighting for relevance there, and I think this one manages it without again being over the top.
Yeah, and it's funny because we just recently got Zhang, who I was pretty high on Zhang, and I've played a couple of times and is a good model, but I don't see any reason to ever hire Zhang now because Yasunori just does most of what Zhang does, but better and is faster.
But Jesse, you have 2 flanks. You take one on one flank and one on the other.
Well, there you go.
You basically make a 10 Thunders Horseman list and just bring all their 10-stone models.
Yeah, I mean, essentially that's it. I mean, we're at a point now where we can very realistically just do a Thunders All-Stars list.
Oh, yeah, we just need another Gaining Grounds where it's just all beef models and you just 10 Thunders with 5 10-stone models.
I mean, that you just do, the Thunders Zoraida thing and just take Misaki 2 and use the Obeys and
Zoraida 2 and 4 10-stone models. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then you put 1 terracotta in the back for card draws.
Of course. That's why you only bought 4 of them.
Always.
Yeah. Or like a Tanuki to heal them or something.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, in all seriousness, I'm definitely going to be playing Yasunori. I'm happy because I have a beautifully painted one that I can't take credit for actually painting. It was purchased as a lot, and I haven't literally been able to use it for any of 3E because I didn't start playing Thunders until after Yasunori got nerfed the first time. So very excited to be able to put it on the table. Yeah, good
With
stuff.
that, we can move on to Outcasts.
I was going to make an Outcast joke. And now onto the winners of the Errata, Outcasts.
Because they didn't need anything.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
I would have liked to see maybe some bandit adjustments. Like Banditos, really could use some.
Well, that feels like keyword rework territory.
That's one of the new keywords coming.
Yeah. So that wraps up all the models. We're just going to briefly mention some of the FAQs. Not all of them were super relevant, but there were a few that were pretty important clarifications. So FAQs number 39. Basically, this is: do you take additional hazardous pings if you do additional stuff related to an action while within hazardous terrain, specifically things like butterfly jump? So if you're in hazardous, you move through it, and then butterfly jump happens. Do you take 1 or 2 pings? They said that to a maximum of once per action or ability is inclusive of this context. Hazardous effect is capped at 1 until fully resolving the action or ability. This means that in the case of butterfly jump, the model would only suffer the effects of hazardous terrain once.
Good clarification.
Good clarification. I hate it because I love Ma, but whatever. It is what it is. Number 40. What happens if a model has multiple triggers that it could declare that must be declared if able? This is super duper duper rare. Basically, it comes up because of the Bad Omen having that arrhythmia trigger that you have to declare.
I'll let you finish and then I'll ask my question.
Yeah. So essentially, the simultaneous effects rules would apply. So the person who's controlling the action gets to choose which trigger gets declared first, and then the other one can't be declared because a trigger has already been declared. So that means that if you have sellout and arrhythmia on a crow, you as the acting player get to choose which one of those is actually going to resolve.
Got it. So say if a pig made an attack, they would still have to take arrhythmia because they have to declare triggers and they have to declare the arrhythmia trigger.
Right. So basically, if rampage is a good example. So if a pig has rampage on a crow and it's got an arrhythmia from the Bad Omen, you would get to choose am I going to resolve Arrhythmia, or am I going to get to resolve Rampage? And then you cannot resolve the other trigger because you've already taken a trigger.
Okay, I assumed it was going to work the opposite way, because Arrhythmia is more specific than just the general action saying you have to declare triggers.
Right. It is more specific, but it says that it would fall into simultaneous effects.
Cool. So I'm very okay with that.
The model would choose it, which is pretty cool.
I love that for me.
Yes, that's a good one. Let's see. Scrolling down
I love that scent of blood and hold down infinite chain, in quote unquote infinite chain is clarified. Who cares? It's cute.
Yeah. So next one we have 25. This is one that's never come up. But what happens when a model with the 2 gremlins and a ghillie suit upgrade is near a model with academic superiority, which blanks the upgrade, which lowers their size and blocks LOS to the model? In this case, the gremlin with a ghillie suit upgrade would be ignored, regardless of it ignoring the upgrade, because the model with academic superiority would lose line of sight to the model.
I have chosen to call this Schrodinger's trench coat.
Yes.
I'm all for
because my mental image of this is like Sandeep or Von Stuck's academic superiority for whatever reason is like causing the gremlin inside the trench coat to like glitch in and out of existence and like continuously raise and lower the height.
Yeah.
I just prefer this. I prefer this academic genius being like, that's not a tall gremlin. That's 2 gremlins in my coat. Wait, is it? Yes, it is. Wait, is it? Maybe it is. Yep, maybe.
Like a Bethesda glitch starts happening in my brain. That's it. That's the whole joke I wanted to make, is that it's Schrodinger's trench coat, and I love it. It's so dumb.
Number 26. This is specific to what happens when a scheme marker is affected by both Koji's Leader of the Sayuri and Anya's Expansionist ability at the same time. The scheme marker would gain both instances of hazardous, so a Sayuri model friendly to Koji would treat the marker as hazardous shielded 1, and also suffer 1 damage from the hazardous effect from Expansionist. Simultaneous effects would apply, and the Sayuri model would choose which order they get resolved in. So that actually applies to any markers that for some reason get 2 different types of hazardous, or anything in the game that gets 2 different types of hazardous around it, like, Jackdaw's thing and Brewmaster's thing. You basically, the model gets to choose the order in which they resolve. So there you go.
Makes sense.
Simultaneous effects. So number 27 is damage from the Envelop in Shadows action, 3 damage 1 time or 1 damage 3 times. This was new to me, and it makes Brock Inspectors better.
Yes,
which is
I
great.
was surprised at this, and I'm so happy for it.
I never would have thought this. So it is 1 damage occurring up to 3 times. So the way that this one works is it's the Brock Inspector's bonus action, and it was target model suffers 1 damage for each friendly Umbra model or shadow marker within 3 inches of it. And I always read it to be just a single instance of damage equal to the number of markers near
it. Because it doesn't say +1.
It doesn't say +1. So it's actually 3 incidents of 1 damage. So it's not going to happen all that often, but it goes ping, ping, ping on models with armor and stuff like that.
It's so weird how they worded it that way, because then it says in parentheses to a maximum of 3, but I guess that's 3 separate instances.
3 instances, yeah. It's wild.
Yeah.
Wow, okay, that hurts. I see why that was contentious.
Yeah.
Just in case
really
Brock
helpful to
Inspectors
chew through
already
shielded though.
armor.
Yeah. I think if that said +1, there'd be no question. But since it doesn't say +1, that makes sense why they had to clarify that.
Right.
Okay,
and
cool.
Whether that's better or worse is very highly dependent on the situation. If you need to chew through shielded for whatever reason, then you can do that.
If you're targeting
a model with multiple shielded are going to take 0, which is not so great.
I eat all their shielded though.
Right. Also not so good against incorporeal, because that just means that it's going to do no damage, which is a bummer. But against a model with like armor, it's going to deal 3 damage, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially on a model that already does irreducible damage. So it can kind of machine gun down stuff, which is pretty okay with me.
Yep.
Next one, number 28. How does the White Rabbit Company's Don't Be Late trigger work? That's a very general question. Does the target only gain staggered if it actually moves? The target will always gain staggered, even if it does not move as a result of an effect such as laugh off. In this case, after moving is not a conditional clause, but a timing clarification. So, okay,
very
pretty
interesting.
straightforward. This is one number 29 is something I definitely saw coming because the
Thank
only
God.
model in the game with misdirection before was utter garbage as the 10 Thunders brother, and now all of a sudden there's Delirium Thralls, which are pretty awesome
and
so
great summons.
They had to finally get around to saying how misdirection actually works.
They had to make a good model to clarify this ability.
Right, exactly. So basically, does suffer the effects of the action mean apply the text of the action to the chosen model, or whatever would have happened to this model happens to the chosen model instead? The latter. And then it goes into the timing reasons for that. But we can just leave it as the latter. So there we go. Makes that trigger actually work, because the other way you read it, it didn't actually work right at
Essentially, if it would actually hit, it happens. If it doesn't, hey, the thing that would have happened
is miss.
Is a miss. So yeah, you missed the guy.
Thank God.
Yep.
Next up, if a model declares the onslaught trigger during the same action in which it declared the regret trigger, does the model still get to take the action generated by onslaught? This was a shock to me. I would not have expected it to be this way. Yes. Regret ends step 2, taking actions of the activation phase, and forces the model into step 3, end activation. I don't see how that answer actually answers the question.
Yeah, it's very confusing.
It's a confusing answer. The important thing is that it just says yes, and they could have just left it at that. But then they couched it in this other stuff that doesn't actually make me understand it any better. Long story short, if you get onslaught on Zoraida with regret, you still get to get your
the other model
attack.
that has regret that I can't think of.
Yeah. And then we got number 31 that doesn't actually have an
there's
asterisk
2 other
next to
regrets. There's Nurse Heartsbane and Dead Doxies.
Then there's a number 31 that doesn't actually have an asterisk next to it. So I don't know if this is a new errata or not, or if
that's an old one. That was older,
which is weird. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that was a previous one. I remember that coming up.
Yeah, so number 10 under Arcanists, Marcus. How does Marcus's Beastmaster interact?
Unless you're holding off on the Dabbler one. That's 8.
Did I miss the Dabbler?
Number 8.
It's 8. 8
I
Arcanist.
missed 8. No, we don't need to talk about Dabblers. They did these out of order. Why'd they do this?
I think it's alphabetical.
Dabbler. Can a Dabbler relent to the duel used to determine the success of its own tactical action, ride the etheric currents, in order to use unexpected outcome to add the top card of its discard pile to the crew's configuration without flipping any cards? Yes. And that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Because that's rules as written, and that's the way it is. And I feel like that's unfortunate because it's really stupid. But yeah.
And see, I would even argue I don't know that needed to be rules as written, because previous to the Dabbler, because of that one specific thing, no one would interpret generated duel as I am taking an action. The duel that I do to do the action is generated. That is part of the action.
Yeah.
But that I can see the argument, because there's not a rule that specifies this is the definition of generated. But I think they could have ruled this the other way.
Right.
But they didn't.
I'm not quite sure why they didn't. Yeah, I
don't love this one.
I don't
at
like
least
it either.
I don't
at least
like
Damien
the fact,
one got nerfed, so
yeah, I mean there is that. I don't like the fact that the thing that seems to make people want to take Dabblers and make them really worthwhile is a really wacky interpretation of a rule.
Right.
Yeah, like it's a bummer.
Yeah, it's a feel bad for whoever the opponent is. It's like that. Okay,
because you're just over here playing with yourself with your Dabbler. Like, all right, I'm just gonna not do this thing that I'm saying I'm doing to put this card in my configuration.
You know, to be honest, I never even thought about doing that to my own model. I played with Dabblers a bit in
You're
Wong.
a reasonable person.
Well, because I try to make them work in Wong, and I'm like, I don't have any luck with them. And then I was reading that, and I'm like, I never even would have thought of, okay.
Right.
I mean, I guess.
You don't think about that.
But
it's so not how you think about the game in general.
Right. It doesn't seem right, but I guess technically it is right.
It is technically correct, which is apparently the best kind of correct.
Yeah. Anyway, Marcus, the one that I was going to go to before. Number 10, how does Marcus's Beastmaster ability interact with the band's format? This is pretty straightforward. The way you think. If Marcus bans December, can he still hire the Blessed of December, treating it as a versatile? Yes, they can. an important clarification, and it works the way you'd think. But yeah, anyway. Mole Man. If this is a weird one, if a friendly model removes a tunnel marker to take the Mole Man's tunneling action using Through the Mountain ability, does it count as a generated action, and can the model take a second bonus action after using tunneling? When taken as the result of Through the Mountain ability, tunneling does not count as a generated action. It simply allows the model to resolve the action, and therefore the model would be unable to declare another bonus action during their activation.
Brain hurts already.
It twists my brain into little knots.
There's no clarification for Mole Man.
It makes sense because they're taking the tunneling action. Okay, I see how it works. I see why there was a question, but I think it resolves the way they intended with this.
Right. Right. And then the most important errata, or the most important FAQ that I could ever possibly hope for as both a Mayfang and a Mawtucket player, under Bayou, Sparks LeBlanc.
Test subject nerf, please change.
Yes. What does friendly models are unaffected by pit trap markers mean? Are they only affected by the scrap markers being treated as pit traps? Friendly models are unaffected by all pit traps within Aura 6 of Sparks.
Test subject nerf. Take it back.
Weird.
Take it back. Test subject nerf.
How
dare you?
As a Bayou player plays against a lot of Raspy, the Lucky Emissary one for number 4 that specifies that you do not take 2 damage for each ice pillar if you.
That's an old one, but yeah, it's
an old one, but it's an important one.
Yeah,
somehow I had missed that, and I just had a game not that long ago where we had
because they're destructible. You break them first, then you keep going. It's so good.
Yes, so good. Guild didn't get any. Neverborn didn't get any.
Lucius, there's a Lucius clarification for the legalese upgrades, but that's based on the whole.
We're not even gonna get into that.
Basically, you can have one of each of the different types of legalese upgrades, and that's how that works.
I love how they had to have an FAQ at the same time.
The thing that they just released
changed because it's that confusing.
It's a get ahead of the game on that one.
Yeah. Outcasts. Let's see if I'm missing any. Dr. McMorning in Sanitary.
McMorning!
Yes. If a mindless zombie is killed near Dr. McMorning as a result of suffering damage, can McMorning use Reduce, Reuse, Recycle to draw a card or drop a second corpse marker? Unfortunately.
Fuck yes, let's go! Yes! Yes, let's go!
Very unfortunate.
Incorrect. Incredibly fortunate.
Really stupid.
Incredibly fortunate. It's so good.
Asura, Rotten, and McMorning? Is that what we're hearing?
Yes, correct. Or? Asura, Zeke, let's go.
Let's fucking
all the zombies.
Thunders, Misaki Katanaka. This is one. These are fucking wild. Because they're ones that never would have occurred to me, even though I've played Misaki about 82,000 times. First one, if Misaki unburies using the From Shadows with no shadow markers on the table, can she choose not to unbury in base contact with Shang and instead unbury anywhere in her deployment zone? No.
She has to choose Shang.
Choose Shang.
I feel very validated or vindicated on that one because I have specifically done that to a Misaki player before because it would have killed Shang. That was the only reason I broke
your fox, you nerd.
Yep. And then Misaki again. If Misaki reshuffles 3 crows back into her deck using You're Already Dead trigger on her bonus action, can she choose the same model 3 times? No. And thank goodness.
Okay, I used to play that you could.
That was a stupid one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a stupid one, and it had come up a lot recently. We actually had to have like a TO powwow before the Boston GT on how to resolve things like this. And we ruled in this way, and I'm happy we did because
very good. Roman, how do you feel about this next one?
Honestly, not bad.
So I know you don't play like this.
Yeah. So this is Wastrel. What happens if a model activates with 2 artifact upgrades attached, one from the previous turn and one from this turn? Will paid with trinkets give the model fast or not because the model cannot gain a second instance of it already if it has
the ability? Yeah.
Since the model cannot gain the ability twice, the paid with trinkets on the newly attached one would be ignored. You wouldn't gain fast. So for anybody who's trying to play McCabe with I want to keep one upgrade on this person forever, and I keep feeding them other ones to give them fast. That doesn't work. Stop it.
Right. So that's what I was doing, and now I know I'm wrong. So there we go. This is an important FAQ for me. And that's not one that would be immediately apparent to me. So
yeah, you don't think about it, but it makes sense when they like lay out, you can't gain the same ability again, so you can't gain paid with trinkets again fast.
Yeah. And that's all the FAQs. Like I said, we're not really going to talk about Lucius because there's other folks that already have.
Go listen to Breach, Burnt, and Rage Quit Wire if you need that.
Yep. They'll figure it out.
I have
my
one
only
thing.
beef. Yeah, go
I have
ahead.
one thing I want to say about them. I am very excited that Guild is no longer bound by the hiring expectations of, well, I declared Guild. I'm going to hire a lawyer and then pick my master.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. And I'm happy to see the White Eyes changes because I feel like it's going to make him much more usable, both in this and in Castor, which is pretty cool. I think overall, looking through it, the crew seems a little over-engineered to me. Like it's like the floor to make it super effective is going to be a little bit too high. And then I was talking to Nate Hoyle before this. He was thinking about maybe joining us, but he had some allergy issues. He wasn't going to be able to make it. And he basically said that his thoughts on it are that people are going to try it. They're going to have a really hard time because they're going to feel like they have to make every single upgrade flip every single turn. They're going to spend too much time and effort doing that. And then eventually a couple of people are going to figure out what you actually need to do when you need to do it and start winning events with it. And then people are going to be like, you can't beat this master. I don't know if it's going to be quite that bad.
It'll be something along those lines.
This is a very complicated crew.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to see them 3 months from now rolling people. Like some people out there that'll pick up on this stuff in like an afternoon, and I hate those people. But but like I think it's like I think there's such a skill level. There's so much going on. I guarantee they're good if you could figure out how to do it. I don't know that I'm the right person to pilot that particular crew, but it's definitely out there.
Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say. But I will say the one thing that they are getting better and better with these keyword reworks, in my personal opinion, is that the theme is getting tighter.
Yes,
like this
100%.
This crew doesn't feel like a weird mini Obey, mini Nelly crew. It feels like it's doing something very different. Even the Oni crew, the Big Hat crew, like all these these mini reworks we're getting right now, regardless of what people like, one model more, one model less, I think the overall feels and theme that were already great with the keyword synergies, I think they're clarifying them, they're streamlining them, and I think they feel better. Like I think it feels more enjoyable as a crew.
Yep.
Yeah. And to the point of what you said, Jesse, of like someone like people trying to like get to the high floor of the crew. I think Lucius already had a high floor. Yeah. And the juice wasn't worth the squeeze at the time, except for like Lucius 2, who was just a back alley assassin. So now you actually get something out of that squeeze.
I like that they made the back alley assassin thing work less well because it was like kind of too good and it was really hard to do anything about as the opponent. There's a couple of wacky things in the crew that I don't super love. Having played a lot of Ivan with Corvus and Eva, flexible morality is like a really cool rule. And when it's on like one or two models, it's like, your opponent can deal with it. It's not the worst, but it's still a cost. When you have it on like a whole freaking keyword, it's going to be pretty gnarly. I mean, like realistically, it's like somewhere between the entire keyword having a manipulative and the entire keyword having serene countenance. Like you don't want either of those things because one is bad and one is too good. Ultimately, like you can just focus and attack and you're going to get around the negative and you're still going to get the plus on the damage. So for crews that can give out like a volume of focus, it's kind of a non-issue. But for the crews that can't, it's a huge tax on their hand, which is like not super fun. I wish that they had maybe found another way to build some defense into the crew. I don't love that it was flexible morality.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. I will say I'm glad they didn't just say everybody gets manipulative, because that would be worse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. This is better than that, and it's way better than the
everyone having
the
serene.
one where. Well, yeah, and it's way better than the crew having intimidating authority, where now the Lucius crew is on the hook for discarding cards to give negatives.
Yeah.
Well, especially
Which,
since
like,
they don't draw as many cards anymore.
Right. They don't draw as many. They do draw a significant amount, but not as many as they did. I mean, the only good thing about intimidating authority is that your opponent can't necessarily plan around it. So if they don't already have focus, you can pitch a card and put them in a negative. They have to preemptively focus and then attack, and then you can just be like, okay, cool, I'm not going to discard a card. So it's not as bad. I don't actually know which would be better for the crew, if it would be better to have intimidating or flexible, but at least we don't have a model that has both, because that would be silly.
Oh
Yeah.
Oh.
The only other beef I have with the crew is I didn't realize until now that doppelgangers can use mimic on themselves and copy their own stat 5 attack to make it stat 7. It's really stupid.
That is a thing they can do.
It's really, really, really stupid. Like, it shouldn't be that way.
It really
because
should.
mimic doesn't
This is
say
why we can't have nice
other
things.
target, other model. It's a tactical action, so they can target themselves. And they can literally take their dagger-like claws, which is the same attack that Lucius 2 has, with some differences on the triggers, of course, and take it from stat 7 to or stat 5 to stat 7 for the cost of a bonus action.
Yeah, mimic probably should be other target only or other model
dumb.
only.
It's so dumb.
I agree with you, but think of it thematically. And if there's one model that should be able to do that, it should be the doppelganger to do this, because effectively she's going, I have these claws. I have these
more
bigger claws. Yeah.
Sure. We'll go with that.
It's neat, but yeah, it really should be other model.
I agree. Overall,
So
though, I think they did a good job of the keyword as a whole. I hope they keep doing these.
I'm sure they will.
Yeah. My one thought is I would like to ask each of you what you want the next keyword they redo to be. Mine would be bandit, because bandit's one I keep looking at and be like,
I'm with you on bandit.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think bandit's as bad as people make it out to be. I think
it needs retuning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of models that are kind of stinkers, and there's mad dogs in the keyword, which are amazing. And like you see in every keyword, it has the perfect like balance of keyword rework models of like there's some models that are really freaking good, and then other models that really need some love. And they can like middle ground that and boost it up a little bit.
I'm gonna go in keeping with theme of the last 2 errata cycles, Witness. Because you've touched both Damien's and you've touched Lohith. Just touch the rest of the crew too and make it actually work in a cohesive way instead of having stupid shit like dabblers.
Make dabblers do something in Wizpack.
Etheric currents. Make them do something other than that makes them good. That was kind of like a half joke, but like only a half joke.
Yeah.
I think that so much has changed with that keyword and with the design of it that it actually does need to have some adjustments to
a good chunk I feel like that could be
models.
like a 2-year down the road rework where now they let this rest for a year and then bump the next year after that.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'd have to probably say Forgotten. I think Molly I think some of what she has is amazing, but you need it. And a lot of her keyword stuff you just don't play it, or it's all of her good stuff is defense 4. She has the most defense 4 models in the game. Her minions are better, but also too fragile and hard to get. Her summons weird. Now I play a lot of Molly, and I'm not saying you can't win with her. I win a lot with her.
Yeah, I think she's great, but you're very limited.
But talking about these other keywords, how they feel when they play together, Molly's keyword does not play itself very well. Like the theme and stuff. Like I don't know. Like, and if they ever nerf our Krooligans,
they nerf Krooligans. The crew's dead.
Yeah, if they do that and they don't give something else, and she doesn't need a lot. She doesn't like even the Masters models are probably fine. It's just it definitely you could take her models and tell exactly what point in M3E they were written. They all
Yes,
kind of have a
correct.
stamp of this is how these models went.
Yep.
But that would probably
Yep.
be my one, just also because I main her a lot. But I think the keyword could use some massaging, if not like a full rework. I think it just an overall like coat of paint kind of thing.
Yeah, I hugely agree with that.
I think that's a good point. And initially I kind of like pulled back a little bit because I'm like, gee, you kidding me? Forgotten's crazy good. But realistically, it's like Molly 1, Archie, Kruligans, Night Terrors in the right list. And like, that's kind of it.
Yep.
And I think that's part of the reason that Molly 2 is just like not really as good. I mean,
the only thing Molly 2 does is crack bats.
She does crack bats.
I'm a big fan of her, but yeah. Well,
no, I like her too. I love her playstyle. But the one good thing she does is crack bats.
And I'm not saying she's bad, but like she would be a lot better if some of the other keyword models.
Well, yeah, because she has like her auras and stuff that are supposed to be with her keyword models, and you don't usually take a lot of them, which is the problem.
Yeah,
right.
But it's kind of in the same way I was going to say Key and Gong, to be honest, is because the same thing. I think there's
also
that's a huge one.
Great, and half the keyword is just never used. And I think those are the ones that should get these like mid GG kind of makeovers. Is if half your keyword staying on your shelf, then there's something wrong with the keyword or the model. Yeah. Something needs to be.
And like they've tried 2 times to make Yoko 1 work, and she still doesn't work. And Yoko 2, only half of her card is actually relevant.
I think Yoko 1's decent, but again, like the rest of the keyword just does not work to support what she wants to be doing.
Geishas need like an entire rework, and Kabuki Warriors are supposed to be amazing and aren't, except for their one aura that they get taken out of keyword for. So like when your minions from the bottom all the way to the top are not doing work unless you're whatever the
Kunoichi. And Charm Warders and Kunoichi are the 2 good ones. Yeah.
And Charm Warders are monks, so.
And when you're Thunders, you just play out a keyword, right? You just take Yasunori now, so it doesn't matter.
There you go. You just play Yoko 1 and Yasunori, and you're good.
Indeed. All right. So, Nate, did you have a keyword rework suggestion before we wrap?
I was with Roman, really. I mean, Bandit. Like, I really would love to see a Bandit rework, personally. Like, I hate to copy the same answer, but like,
How about you take Bandit? The other one I would say, and I hesitated to say this because I really like the idea of the keyword reworks being kind of a lift up, or as Kylie said, kind of a new coat of paint for later in the edition. But the other keyword, I keep looking at them and I go, it's not that they're bad, it's not that they're too good, it's that there are about 3 models in the keyword that make up so much of the cruise, and you don't see the rest of it, and that's Nephilim.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I think Nephilim have more variety now that Black Blood Shaman have been toned down and Corrupted Hounds are great.
I was gonna say dog.
But now we have kind of the opposite problem where it's like now we have matures and dogs.
Yeah.
Well, the 3
it's
I
not
was
the most
thinking
exciting crew build.
Yeah.
And like Terratots are just bad. And Young Nephilim are great, but they just get edged out.
Yeah. And that is exactly my thought. My 3 models I was thinking of were dogs, matures, and the Cavern Nefs.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I do like Cavern Nefs, but I think you take them out of necessity in Rezer Castor, and that's probably
I lost against them in a game in Boston, and I'll never ever forget that they have scavenge now. Whatever it is, they let them eat the ski markers. That cost me. Yeah, I was just like, oh right, okay, never forgetting that now.
Womp womp.
Yeah. Yep. Indeed. All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. We ended up recording for quite a bit longer than I thought we would. Hopefully, it wasn't quite a boring conversation.
Hey,
you brought on some boring conversationalists, so that's on you.
Indeed. With all of that said, about all of these keywords and all of these erratas and FAQs, please do keep your conversations boring and stay weird, folks.